Holy guacamole. Shit is going through the roof. I am extremely happy for a number of reasons today. I mean, look at this, man. Anyway, so I just sold my excavator. I've been trying to sell it for the last few months. I wanted to sell it for Kaspa. And the check cleared today. And I've been on XT and L Bank sending $1,000 pops at a time to buy some more Kaspa. And I've been buying it at 10 cents and it just started going up and up and up. But yeah, we got some good stuff going on here. So let me just refresh some of this. Man, it feels like a good day. Oh, I gotta have to deal with an ad for a second. All right, so it is a good day. I've had a bunch of crazy stuff going on this past week. And so yeah, Trump is ahead with the popular vote. So yeah, that's something that's pretty cool, and let's hope it keeps that way. I have been trying to send $1,000 a pop to XT and L Bank. They take time. They take time to process, and then I gotta send it off to my Tangem, and then it's like I gotta do it again. So I don't feel comfortable sending more than 1,000 because I get scared because at any moment they could just freeze your account and you can't do anything about it because they're offshore. So I'm not supposed to be logging in. I log in with a VPN, but yeah. Oh my god, dude, yeah. Oh shit. I have Mark Dice. I've been trying to find live stream for CNN, but they have it on their website, but it doesn't come through if I live stream. So the Clown News Network, as Mark Dice says. What do we got going on here?
I thought for a minute ago that Trump was taking Broward County too, and my eyes almost jumped out of my head. But it looks like at this point it's still going blue.
I have a Twisted Tea. I'm gonna open up. I rarely drink anything but water, really, these days. But what the hell not? Look at these pumps.
Republican voters, but also in Miami, you see Venezuelan, you see Brazilian, you see a lot of South American voters.
Then we have the MAGA Trump coin, which is pumping and isn't too high. It's not as high as I thought. I'm barely up. It dumped a little bit this past week, so yeah, dumped. I'm like, I mean, my bag is like between $700 and $800. So let's see how far that goes up tonight. If it goes up today, I have no idea how it's going to perform. If it's worth holding on to the top of the bull market 12 months from now, or if it's just going to pump like crazy today. Dark MAGA, somebody in one of the groups I'm in told me he's out there. Yeah, he told me to invest in this. I did. Put $100 in this. Was it just yesterday, I think. And look at that shoot up. That's just today, right? Look at that shoot up. Boom, boom, cha-ching. So that is doing pretty good. Crypto markets. What about everything else? Bitcoin is up. Bitcoin is up. Everything I think is up. Yeah, these are all the other coins I follow on my watch list. I'm invested in. I'm having like almost all of these. Yeah. A little mix here and there overall, but the good news is Kaspa is finally pumping after so long being down. Not too much, but it's enough to get me scared because I keep on sending money off to XT and L back to buy more Kaspa. So, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, doing a great job. Probably one of the most.
What we got going on here?
Virginia's one. Also, we're looking out west, not closed yet, but Nevada. And what would Clark County do? Obviously,
let's turn this up
tax
a
on
little bit.
tips seems like something that people would be interested
Let's turn
in.
this
If it's,
up.
You know, wage workers in Las Vegas. But right now, sort of seeing where that goes when it closes. Some of the independent pollsters are saying Nevada could go Donald Trump's way, which would obviously be huge. And, you know, these are some of the little places. Even New Hampshire, while it may not go his way, they've been looking at, you know, kind of some of the, if he's keeping it close.
Sure.
Much closer than Joe Biden was. I mean, that's sort of how much trouble could she have been in these places that usually go Democratic easily.
Yes, let's go ahead and take a look, you know, if we can, real quick, at the map for North Carolina in particular. And that's what we're waiting on, how that's going to break down, because this has changed over the last hour. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit on this. You can see where the votes came in. As you would expect, in Raleigh area coming in for Trump, you can see for Kamala Harris there. She's doing very well in these urban areas of North Carolina. But when you come to the more rural areas of the state, you can see where Donald Trump picked up the lead there. And with 24% of the vote in, Donald Trump has jumped out to a bit of a lead in North Carolina. Same thing in Georgia. Donald Trump has a bit of a lead there as well, something we're watching very closely. We got 63% of the votes coming in. And again, this is kind of shaking out like you'd expect, a tightly huddled group of Democratic votes here around the metro Atlanta area. Same thing around Augusta, Georgia. You can also expect Clark County here, where Athens, the University of Georgia is. But the rest of the state is very red. And what was needed to happen this time around, which didn't really happen in 2020, is these voters had to come out for Donald Trump, and it appears like that's happening. Now let's go back and take a look at Virginia, if we can take a look at that real quick.
Wow.
And again, you can see most of rural Virginia is breaking for Donald Trump, but when it comes to suburban Washington, D.C., Fairfax County, you see Kamala Harris has a lead there. Loudoun County, we do see that Donald Trump was able to cut into the lead that Democrats Joe Biden actually had in 2020, a much closer result there in Loudoun County. But again, this is an area populated by a lot of Washington bureaucrats, a lot of people that don't like what Donald Trump plans to do if he gets back in office. So the result there is somewhat expected.
But Biden won in 2020 by 10%.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is keeping pace with her neck and neck. So that is fascinating.
And even if Donald Trump isn't able to pull out a victory in Virginia, we'll look to see what that tells us about Pennsylvania. What will that tell us about Michigan? What will that tell us about Wisconsin and how things are breaking out for each candidate in particular?
All right, let's bring in some of our guests now standing by with some more analysis of what we're seeing. Pleased to have senior fellow at the American Conservative Union, the host of CPAC Now, America Uncanceled, former White House strategic advisor, Mercedes Schlapp with us, and also GOP strategist Joe Pinion. All right, guys, here we are, historic election. Some polls have closed, others are still open. What is your sense you're feeling with some of the results that we're seeing and also some of the states we've already called? Mercedes, why don't you kick things off for us?
Yeah, well, I think Georgia, it looks like President Trump will be winning in Georgia. And looking at all these numbers, what's been very impressive to watch is that President Trump is doing better with black voters. Kamala Harris is lagging behind in the areas that she needs to be doing better in that sort of, Fulton County, Cobb County area. So I think that the Harris folks are I think, very nervous about losing Georgia and North Carolina as well. You know, it's interesting with Virginia. We'll see what happens there, but I think Trump is doing better than expected in certain regions. But I don't think it's in the area of Virginia, but I don't necessarily think he will win Virginia. I think obviously then all eyes are going to shift towards the blue wall, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Michigan, seeing if President Trump can get a win there.
Yeah, there's also that key House race in Virginia we're watching very closely between Eugene Vindman, whose brother was obviously involved in the first impeachment of Donald Trump, and Derek Anderson, the Republican in that race, and that's still neck and neck. You have Vindman coming in with 52%, Derek Anderson with 48%. So this is one of those counties, one of those battleground districts we're going to watch very closely. Joe, what has caught your eye so far here at 8:53 p.m. Eastern Time on election night?
Look, I think all eyes are on Virginia. It does appear right now cautiously optimistic that that red wall in the South for President Trump has held. Much of the exaggerations from the left about Kamala knocking on that door in North Carolina, in Georgia, I think it was quite telling. You didn't see her down in Georgia or North Carolina over the last 3 days because President Trump appears to have done what he needed to do there, and now all eyes.
What about this? Let's see. CBS.
Start with this. What is at stake here? What is the answer then?
Do you know why? You want me to just keep going?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Were there death threats?
How is this possible?
What's wrong with that argument?
Are you saying they...
Still doing good, still doing good, still doing good. I made a new graphic recently that's specific to Kaspa, a new live animated motion graphic. So, let's... There we go. Let's move this a little down right here. There you go. Kaspa. Pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know? Pump it up. Don't you have to pump it up? XT, open up an incognito browser, turn on ExpressVPN. Cha-cha-ching. Let you know, pump it up. Got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. Got to pump it up. Log it into XT. I sent some USDT over to XT. I already put 4,000 on Kaspa today out of my check that I got from selling my excavator. Yeah. Let's put another 1,000. Let's get this video still going. Yeah. All right. Google Authenticator. No, we need more music. Let's get some Kaspa. We need more music. There we go. Kaspa. So I'm about to buy some Kaspa. Alright. Come on, XT, send me that verification code. Send me that verification code. There it goes. Pump it up. Got to pump it up. Don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know? Pump it up. Got to pump it up. All right. right. Oh, it stopped. Come on, dude. All right, all right. Markets. Buy market rate 8,600 Kaspa. Estimated fee is 17 cats. Confirmed. What just happened? What happened here? Huh? What happened? Alright, let's see. Coolness. Alright. Let's get this going again. Harris 30, Trump 105. Alright, let's get this one going again. Let's get some news back on. Come back to the music a little later.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, all closing at this hour. In the last hour, we had Pennsylvania, and we're still waiting for a lot of that data to come trickling in. Arizona also just closed at the top of the hour. We'll bring you all of these results as the data comes in. We're getting it in real time, just like everybody else, and we're just trying to figure out what it all means at this point. We all have been able to call a few races, you know, we're kind of in the midpoint, I think. Maybe the beginning of the midpoint.
Well, wherever we are, we're glad you are with us. Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca Della Garza alongside John Bachman. We are calling some races here. We're going to call Ohio right now. In fact, for Donald Trump with 52% there. And calling Ohio is one of the most recent races. We've also called Alabama, Florida, West Virginia, South Carolina, Kentucky, and Indiana, all for Donald Trump. So he is ticking up one by one, but you mentioned the polls are closing now in some parts of the West. And
let's just take a look real quick. You know, we show Pennsylvania on the screen. Harris up 66% to 33%. You might notice those numbers a little round. Only 15% of the vote in Pennsylvania. And we're all very interested in what's going to happen in Pennsylvania. We're watching very closely, but we've been told and warned by election officials there, we got to be patient. They have a very slow process for counting votes in Pennsylvania. It might not be tonight before we find out who wins there. We will be watching very closely.
And the makeup of Pennsylvania, a few weeks ago in Latrobe, and you know, so there's all these different demographics in Allentown, which is also very heavily Hispanic, about 40%, where Kamala Harris was the other day, because she's struggling with Latino voters. So makeup of Pennsylvania with 19 electoral votes, the most electoral votes for any of the ballot boxes.
She's been looking for an insight in that data forever.
Oh, right here.
I'm gonna find it.
Did you tell her about Sapphire?
No, I thought you did.
I'm gonna tell her.
Oh, no.
The quickest way from a billion
Where
points
am
of
I getting
data
this
to a
from?
point of view.
Oh,
Sapphire.
shit. This was paused. All right. Wowzers. Wowzers. She got Vermont. Oh, wells. Oh, wells.
But those are now safely in the column for Republicans. All right, let's get out to Alana
Massachusetts,
Austin.
Vermont,
She is tracking the
and,
developments around the country, and she joins us live now from Washington, D.C. with this report. Hey, Alana.
Ain't much.
Hi, good evening, John and Bianca. Good to see you. Now, we are looking at some of the breaking news that is coming in. For example, these bomb threats that are being reported out of Pennsylvania.
Bomb
As of
threats.
right now, though, we are hearing that that is not credible, but it has disrupted some of the operations in the Keystone State. Now, we also wanted to play sound from former President Donald Trump earlier today. He says that if the election results are fair, he will accept the results.
So far, I think it's been fair. I think there's been a lot of court cases. Both sides are lawyered up. Thousands of lawyers are involved, thousands. Can you
Fair,
imagine?
dark MAGA.
And part of that is
Dark
because we
MAGA.
have too complicated a process.
Now, heading into Election Day, we heard from the RNC that they had these massive investments, the top priority being election integrity. Hundreds of thousands of recruits as poll watchers, poll observers, and also volunteers and 500 lawyers per battleground state. Now, the RNC again saying they believe that this could prevent issues, trying to nip things in the bud as they arise. The co-chair of the RNC, Laura Trump, also saying, for example, they believe by having all of these strong investments in place, it will address problems quickly. She gave one example a couple of hours ago. Luzerne County, which is critical to the GOP, they were apparently running low on their ballot papers, and she said that that allowed their team to be deployed and work with officials to ensure that they were able to restock. Now, there were also some
MAGA
glitches
Trump,
being
stop
reported out of the
pumping.
New York City area.
Don't go
That's taking a
down.
look at
What are you
Queens.
doing?
There were a handful of neighborhoods that saw hours-long lines amid technical difficulties and high turnout. The Board of the Elections, though, said out of an abundance of caution,
Yeah,
they
you gotta
actually
go up to
sent
there.
out
What's
representatives
that?
and technicians to
That was
all
back in May. Look at that all-time
290
high back in
polling
May. Holy
sites.
crap.
There were some voters who reported
This MAGA
that
Trump
there
coin
were
has to
ballots
go.
that were having to be run through the machines multiple times.
That'll
But again,
be,
at this point in time, New York City officials say
holy
they believe
guacamole,
every
dude.
single vote will be counted. Now,
That'll be like a
Republican
6X.
officials are urging folks around
Right?
the country, if they are
Or
in
6
a
times 3 is
state or in
18,
a
yeah.
precinct where they're still eligible
Man, it
to
could.
vote,
It could still
to
do it
wait in
tonight.
line and let the officials work through any of
could
those
do it.
interruptions that they may see or those long wait
could
times.
still do
There
it.
are delays that could be coming out of the city of Milwaukee. As many as 31,000 absentee ballots had to be recounted. There was an issue where there was an unsecured and unsealed tabulator, and so we were hearing from the officials, both Democratic and GOP, that they had a chance to review this. They believe it was a human error, but again, that could delay things. Laura Trump saying that this is unacceptable and it undermines confidence in the systems. She is reporting that they have been monitoring the situation and that Milwaukee has had slow vote counting throughout the day. We're also tracking those threats to the election systems that are pouring in. I want to play sound from the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, regarding some of those concerns. He believes it all traces back to Russia. I'm not sure if we have time for that, but if not, I'll send it back to you guys, Bianca and John. Good to see you.
Well, a lot is happening, Alana. We appreciate that update for us in Washington. Always great to see you. We're watching results. Polls just closed at 9 o'clock. Former Pennsylvania Senator and former presidential candidate Rick Santorum, I believe, is standing by for us right now in our newsroom in New York.
Oh,
Senator
USDT's.
Santorum, welcome in. History in progress here of this election.
Yeah.
How are
How we
you
doing with the
reading some of the
Kaspa?
early results that
How's
we had seen?
Kaspa
We've called
pumping?
some races
How's it
Trump's way
pumping?
and some Kamala Harris's.
Yeah, it's pumping.
Yeah, I mean, again, you have to look at, you have a lot of other races going on, but, you look at some states, say, well, Trump did
Oh,
better
geez.
than he did, 4 years ago in Virginia. Well, they weren't really running a campaign in Virginia, so I'm not
Let's
sure that
go,
really
pump it
matches
up.
with how those races are going to come
Another
down in the states where they
$1,000.
actually ran,
Let's
both
go,
sides
pump
really
it
hammered it
up.
out. So let's look at one of those states, Georgia. And Georgia right now, and pretty consistently, what you're seeing is Trump is doing not a lot better, but 1 or 2 points better in most of these counties.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's doing 1 or 2 points better.
A couple of
Yeah.
sections where he did a little better.
That's the way to go.
4%, others where he maybe
That's the
did,
way
you
to
know,
go. If we want to
about
be
where he
rich,
was
that's what we got to
before.
do.
But overall, he's running about a point or two better than he did before. And conversely, if you look at Kamala Harris, she's running about a point or two behind where Joe Biden ran 2 years ago.
Behind.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Georgia was decided by less than a half a point. So if Trump is doing 1% better and Kamala Harris is doing 1% worse, that tells you that it's a 2% race, 1.5% race, and you want to be Donald Trump. So you just have to keep watching. It's not you know, some people are projecting a blowout. It might be because we still don't have a lot of results from some counties, and they may not be, they may be different than what we've seen in. But if you're looking at what we're seeing right now, I think the Trump folks are feeling good about Georgia right now. North Carolina is still early. But again, what we're seeing there is the same thing, which is Trump is doing just a little bit better than he did before, and he doesn't have to do any better than he did before because he won the time before. So the other state is Pennsylvania, which is closed now for about an hour.
And that's my question.
People look at that now.
Let me turn that
People look at that state right now. Now that, and I don't know if you can put it up, but what you'll see, it's pretty ugly. You know, Pennsylvania, he's down by a lot. Why?
Let's talk about it.
That's not good.
Let's talk about it.
I go through it.
I can't put it up here. I have it. I have Pennsylvania up here, the current map up on my computer. If we can punch that up here. And when you look at a county like Monroe County, and you see how that's looking right now. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit closer to that. Kamala Harris has 62% of the vote, and Donald Trump has about 36% of the vote. Now that's about 3 points better for the Democrats than it was in 2020. So talk to us, and this is with only 32% of the vote in. So talk to us about what's really going on here in Monroe County.
Yeah, I would say those are pretty good numbers for Donald Trump. And why would I say that? Well, because if you look at the votes, about 32%. All of that data, there might be a little bit, but almost all of that data is mail-in vote. If in all of these counties, these blue counties you see, for example, go down to York County, which is where you see the P in Philadelphia on the map. It's just to the left of that. That's York County. If you see this one right there, you go, York County. So York County's 54%.
All right, let's
Donald Trump's going to win that county by a bigger early vote percentage-wise in Monroe County, and it's coming in heavily for Kamala Harris, as you would expect, because the early vote in Pennsylvania came in twice as many Democrats as Republicans voted early. And again, York County, Donald Trump's going to win York County, but the early vote, twice as many Democrats as Republicans voted early. So it just goes to show you that if you look at this map, you see some of these red counties, those are Republican counties, and that's the early vote. And even in the early vote, they won, even though it was more Democratic. So it's way too early. Pittsburgh, the same thing. Allegheny County, if you show that number, again, early vote, and that's why we just sort of have to wait until the early vote. Some counties you look that you don't see anything. They may be waiting to count their early votes. The counties don't have a uniform policy. They may wait to we don't encourage it in Pennsylvania. We actually encourage the counties to start counting right away, but they don't always.
Enlightening stuff. If you're looking at the Pennsylvania map, don't panic. According to Rick Santorum, for example, York County, which we talked about, went for Donald Trump 61, almost 62% back in 2020. So we'll see how these things change as more of the numbers come in for Pennsylvania. Mr. Pennsylvania, Senator Santorum, great to have you with us. Thanks so much.
And we're here throughout the night with Senator Santorum as well, so thank you so much. No, we're watching it very closely. Of course, there are other precincts that we're also tracking in some of these other battleground states like Georgia. And right now, we're pleased to bring in a member of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, Missouri, Representative Eric Burlison, who's up for re-election
looks like a trade out to USDT right now.
Talk to us, sir, about how you're feeling. We see a lot of signs behind you, and obviously you're at your headquarters there with people who are looking forward to cheering you tonight.
So,
well, it's good to be on, Bianca, and it's an exciting night here in Missouri. I know that this is Trump country. Folks behind me, this is Trump country. So it's hard to hear, and I apologize, but yeah, this is this area. People are excited. We're excited to see the numbers coming in, and I think at the end of the night we're going to see a change in the White House, and we're going to see an end to this nightmare that is the Biden-Harris administration. And so we're excited to see an end to the nightmare.
Well, we're calling Missouri right now for Donald Trump at 51% there. Missouri voted Republican, sir, in every presidential election since 2000. The last Democrat was Bill Clinton in '96. So here you go again, going red. Kamala Harris obviously, made her plea last night to voters, standing with Lady Gaga, standing with Oprah Winfrey, as a lot of folks in Missouri probably wondering how they're going to pay for gas and groceries.
Yeah, I think that, the American people have lived through both administrations. They know what it's like to live under a Donald Trump. And the American people felt better. They were able to, they had money at the end of the month.
Oh, whoa.
Today, they have more month at the end of their money.
What's going on? Got some comments right here. What's up? Crypto disclosure.
Even in Missouri, a state that's not a swing state, we saw
somebody texting me right now.
In early voting. People would come out and wait for hours at our early voting centers because people wanted to make sure. I spoke with so many people.
What is that, Gary Network? What in the world is that?
I don't want to miss an
All right, let's figure it out.
Just in case something might happen on Tuesday, I want to make sure that I lock in my vote beforehand. So the level of energy is something that we have not seen in a long time.
Let's open a new window here.
We're really excited
What is
for
Gary
Trump
Network?
presidency.
Congressman, quick question for you.
I've never heard of that. So.
Talk to some of your colleagues around the country. How are we feeling?
Yeah, here we go.
Some of these swing district races in California,
1,500.
There's been some talk that
Ooh, it's dumping today.
retain control of the House. How are you feeling
It
about
is
that?
dumping today. It is dumping
Yeah, I
this
think that one of the
month.
things
Okay.
that is going to be unique about this election.
What happened
is that
with it
Trump
on,
is actually outperforming a lot of the candidates across the
All right,
country.
so it started-
in 2020, that was not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I guess I went
But
down
we're
with the rest of the
seeing- I think
markets
this
in
year we're gonna
August,
see,
but it was already going down
Trump
before that,
lead
so that's not pretty
a lot of
good.
the members of Congress and their races.
What about
and he's gonna
centralized
outperform them.
exchanges?
And if
It's got a
Congress
lot
is
of
gonna
centralized
maintain control,
exchanges.
It's going to be
All right, it's on
because Donald
Solana.
Trump led the way, and he drugged.
It's not.
through
It's
us,
in terms of
congressional
centralized
members
exchanges.
across
It's
the
not
finish
too
line.
bad. Why is it
Congressman
dumping?
Burleson, great
What's
to
it
have you
all
with us.
about?
Missouri in the win column for Donald Trump. All the electoral college votes as well.
Let's check what
Thanks
they
so much
got
for being
going
with
on.
us.
Sir, enjoy the rest of your election night. Well, right now, a former White House congressional spokesperson joins us. He's now a Trump surrogate, Harrison Fields, out there with
I
us.
don't know.
And, Harrison,
I don't know about
we
it.
were at the West Palm Beach party.
It doesn't sound like something I would necessarily buy into, but it does have a lot of centralized exchanges. So
We've got to wait for Hawaiian.
let's find out some more about it. What's going on with it?
Also, we're watching Nevada. But tell us how you feel with what
Gary
we are
Network.
seeing so far in this historic election.
Well, Bianca, it's always great to speak with you, and it's so good to be back in my home state of Florida.
I don't know. I usually get involved with a coin like this, but
in this building over 10 years
why
ago,
not?
so it's a bit of a homecoming for
If
me.
it could pump again, has potential. If it goes down, you
here.
could buy into it when it's
Hundreds of people are here.
say it's a
lot of
streaming
MAGA hats, a lot of
platform
MAGA energy, and I'm
on
talking to a lot of
Solana.
people that are digging
Yeah, I
through
mean,
a lot of the
it's.
data. Expect to see a call for Donald Trump in Georgia.
I don't know.
pretty
Outside of
soon.
Casper
They
as a
feel very,
layer
very
one,
confident
I guess
about the way
Casper and
things
Bitcoin
look
are my
in
layer
Georgia.
ones, and I only get
Carolina's also
involved. And I
looking
only get
good.
involved
You
with
talked about it earlier with your previous guest.
with meme
The
coins,
early
but
vote for the
this
Republican
doesn't look
Party
too
has
bad.
shattered so many records. I think they banked a lot of vote
I mean, I don't know how much I would
early,
put
and
down
of course,
on it.
Historically, Republicans show up on election day.
But
So I think if you had to be in
you
one
gotta
of the
look
camps,
into-
either here in West Palm Beach or Washington D.C.,
You just got to look into
I
what they
think a
got
lot of
going
people
on
would
because
rather be here
they
in West
got
Palm
in
Beach
terms
on
of centralized
election night
exchanges,
because
they're
the
doing pretty
vibes
damn
to
good.
vote Kamala Harris
So
are way
they've been
higher
out
over
there.
here right now.
The coin itself is new, right?
Your prom was
It
10
was
years ago.
the
I
old
know you
time.
just had a baby, and I know.
Oh no, it's been
living is
around
something that
since. Well,
factors
yeah, I
in
mean
so
it's
many
been around
people's lives.
since
What
the
do
bear
you think
market.
about Georgia? I just want to put up the numbers here. Obviously,
I don't know. I mean, it could pump. I mean, everything's going to pump in this bull run, right? So it could pump. If it's that far down,
Donald Trump being there also
I don't know. I mean, this doesn't look good. If you zoom out,
really, that we could pinpoint
this doesn't look good at
election.
all.
I still remember the Chick-fil-A moment he had.
I don't know if I would risk more than like $100
One
in
of the
this.
historically black colleges in Georgia, and she said, "I don't believe
This
what
is
they're
totally
saying
hard
about
to
you,
say.
Donald Trump." We had Fulton
You got to look
County,
into
we
what
had
they got
the
going
mugshot,
on and what they
we
got
had
planned,
Bonnie
any
Morris.
announcements,
Georgia's been a really
anything that's coming.
and kind of insane storyline in this presidential
Obviously, it's
race
a
with
product.
Donald Trump, Harrison.
So what do they plan on launching? You know.
2020 was kind of a hiccup in the long run
So,
for the
you know,
Republican
what do they
Party
got coming
in Georgia.
out?
I think the unification between Brian Kemp and Donald Trump
Yeah.
is really going to play a role in this
I
election.
mean, you can
But
go
again,
for
you
it. I
talk
wouldn't.
about
I
the
wouldn't put
issues.
too much
When
into
you
it
look
though.
at exit poll after exit poll, and I know a lot of people
'Cause,
say don't look at the exit polls too much.
that-
but the polling
that
before
doesn't
the
look good
election
at all.
today spoke about the issues. When you look at immigration and the economy, Donald
The
Trump was
yearly
running
is,
away on those
I don't
two
know, all
issues.
right. I guess
No
it started
one can
dumping
say,
it with the rest of the market when
honestly,
things started dumping in August. But yeah,
your family feels better
I don't
off
know.
today
I don't know, dude.
economically than you did 4 years ago under
Don't
Donald Trump.
don't put too
Just look
much
at
on
gas
it.
prices, just look at grocery
I mean, I
prices,
wouldn't put too
just
much on
look
it.
at rent. You talked
I
about the black
wouldn't.
vote also. My sources are
wouldn't.
saying in the
You know, $100
metro
bucks,
area
yeah.
around Atlanta,
If
the
it starts
black
pumping
voters
like
did not
crazy and it's
turn out
$100
for
bucks, and
Kamala
you could do like
Harris,
100x on
especially
100 bucks,
black
yeah, why
males.
not?
We're
It's
also
pretty
seeing a
cool, but
shift for black men for Donald
I don't
Trump.
think so.
That's going to be
I'll spread out.
devastating in Georgia. That's also going to be devastating
Diversify.
in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. It's still very early to call anything, but I think the
let's
momentum
do.
right now is in Donald Trump's favor, and he's widening that coalition to include black men.
All right, Harrison Fields for us live in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you, Harrison.
Great to see you, Harrison. We'll be checking back in, I know. Thank you.
All right, so the polls are officially closed in Wisconsin, and
Where
we're
was
waiting
I?
for that data to trickle in. There have been reports from our own Mark Halperin talking about the nervous, the nerves of Democrats in Wisconsin, and if the vote's going to show up for Kamala Harris. Let's check in now with Logan Raddick. He's live in Jefferson County, Wisconsin.
Where was my incognito
with the latest
window?
for us from there. Hey, Logan.
What the hell is it? Time out.
I've made the move to Madison, John. This is actually the watch party for Eric Hupke. He's the Republican candidate for Senate.
That's right, I have some
This is a
BTC.
big Senate race. I know earlier in the program you guys mentioned that Jim Justice has won the Senate seat in West Virginia. That's a flip of the seat that had been held by Democrat turned independent Joe Manchin. But this is a Senate
I don't
race
have any
that is,
USDT. I'm going to
close one,
send
and
that
it's definitely an important
$1,000 in
one for Republicans if they
USDT
wanna
off the
have
L-Bank.
a potential Senate majority
Because why
in
the
the
hell
next
not?
Senate.
I got to
Hupke
buy more
going up against
Kaspa.
incumbent Tammy Baldwin. Hupke actually just came out and talked to supporters, and he said he feels good. He wants his supporters to have fun tonight, but he also
let's
said
log out of
that
L-Bank.
there could be the results coming in tomorrow. We might not actually know the winner tonight here in Wisconsin. Some good signs, though, for the Trump campaign if you think about turnout. Urban votes down during the early voting. Female votes down during early voting. Now, those two demographics have been predicted to be leaning Democrat. But also, when you look at the voting here in Wisconsin today, we were just in, as you mentioned, Jefferson County. That's a Republican plus 15 county. It was raining most of the day, John and Bianca, and people were coming in and out of the precinct we were at. But then, when it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, towards the end of the workday, the line was out the door to the parking lot, and that continued for the next 2 hours or so that we were there. So that is another good sign for Republicans that they're getting this very high turnout in these rural counties and also these exurbs of a place like Madison where we are now. Now, I talked to some people who are with the Hupke campaign, and they say that they're hearing that across Wisconsin, that they're getting out the vote in these rural counties. So that is good news for Republicans. But we'll see what ends up happening in places like Madison.
Max
Very
amount.
Democratic heavy stronghold here at Collegetown.
$9.97 and 61
Milwaukee
cents.
Cities around Milwaukee like Kenosha and so forth. So a big race
send
here
that
in Wisconsin,
bad
obviously,
boy
because
off
it's such a
to
key
L-Bank.
battleground state, but we're keeping a close eye on this Senate race.
Let's
Eric
go
Hupke
pump it up.
hoping to knock off incumbent Tammy
Need
Baldwin,
some
the
more
Democrat
music.
who's running for a third term in the Senate. Back to you.
Oh, pump it up.
Raddick, thank you. As Logan just mentioned in his excellent report there, that state has always been so close. 2020 Biden 0.6, Donald Trump 2016 0.8% is actually the birthplace of the
another code.
So some say there's still a little bit of a streak there in Wisconsin, but we're watching that, watching all the
051 340.
That's right. So
Cha-ching.
interesting state.
All right, let's welcome in Stephanie Hamill now. She's a contributing writer at the Media Research Center and trade trainers commissioner at the Federal Elections Commission. Great to have you both with us this evening.
You have 60 hours left before you can withdraw.
All right, Stephanie, first to
I've
you.
never seen this message on Uphold.
Closely this evening.
I mean, I've been actually looking a lot at the media coverage.
They're not letting me
and there are a lot
withdraw that much money in a single day? Are you kidding me, man? I want to buy more Kaspa on L-Bank.
They were hoping that Kamala would win this in a landslide. landslide, and that doesn't appear to be the case. In
60 hours left? I have to wait 60 more hours before I can withdraw $998 because I need to cool off. Are you freaking kidding me?
For Donald Trump, Trey, and overwhelmingly positive.
I have never seen that message on the Uphold.
Well, the coverage has been that. You know,
You
for me, I've been monitoring
son
very
of a
closely
bitch.
the legal situation, having over 20 years experience doing
Holy
election
shit.
law. I look at things like what's going on in Milwaukee, where Milwaukee was very slow counting the vote earlier today.
All right, so
and then the legal team up there
$355.84
found out that they were doing the counting in an insecure
is the
environment,
maximum
so
they
had to
want to let me
restart their
withdraw.
count over. And so
Are you
have,
freaking kidding me,
election officials
dude?
in Milwaukee who aren't doing their job, and they need to do their job. And that report that you just had from what's going on up there in
Holy
Wisconsin was very
guacamole,
encouraging. But again,
guacamole.
you need to have fair administration of these elections. The other thing I've been monitoring closely is the minority vote that Donald Trump appears to be getting in Georgia. He is way outperforming where he was with Latino men voters in the state of Georgia in 2020. He's now got a 10-point
I have
advantage
never
over
seen that
Kamala
before,
Harris,
bro.
54 to 44 with Latino men, and he's picking up about 23% of the vote.
Trey, real quick, we have one more call we can make here. I'm being told,
Oh.
producer, saying that we can call North Carolina, in fact, for Donald Trump. It was trending in that direction.
North Carolina for Donald Trump.
So one of those swing states. He won in 2020.
What
back
just
in the win
happened?
column in 2024. I apologize for interrupting.
2016. So here we go. 51% Donald Trump, North Carolina, the battleground state. Yes, sorry, yeah. Trey, thank you. But doesn't it feel like some of these issues are being handled
Oh, my scene changed. I have no idea why.
and
Maybe I
now
pushed
we
the
saw
button.
what happened in Georgia, where they said, no, you're not going to have these election offices open. So just to let you finish your point
let's
here, is
get
we
back
want
to
to
this.
call
Okay,
North
here we go.
Carolina and get our viewers up-to-date information. There is, the
All right, so-
RNC has made a big push, and there are a lot of things that are happening, and there's a lot of wins there that should make people feel very, very confident.
Well, we should feel confident, and it's great to see the changes that have happened in our elections administration. And a lot of that happened because Donald Trump brought attention to those issues with the 2020 election, and you saw the Georgia legislature respond to that with changes that were made there. So much so that Major League Baseball
what we got going on with
pulled, the All-Star game from there. But now we're seeing the fruits of his efforts.
34 to
come fruition with what's going on
168.
in Georgia, what's going on in all of these states where they're actually running fair
I'm sorry, what?
elections. Now, we
34
still
to
have
what did I
hiccups
just
in that,
say?
and you're always going to have hiccups in the
No,
election.
it's okay, yeah.
But places like Milwaukee, they need to get the job done. They need to watch what's going on in Pennsylvania. We need to make sure that there's no shenanigans going on in the city of Philadelphia, like what has been reported earlier today. So, all of those things need to come into play and be concerns as we continue to watch this. And of course,
What the
it is
fuck do I do right now,
exciting
man?
news
If I
for me,
wanted
being a
to
Donald Trump
spend like another
appointee, to see Donald
$10,000
Trump
on
win a
fucking
state like North
Caspa.
Carolina.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it is exciting news. North
I
Carolina
feel like,
going
man,
this way. Stephanie, you talked about the
this is like just punch upholding the balls right now, man. Like, what the fuck?
tonight. We're in the thick of
Jesus
it right now,
Christ.
and polls are still open in some
I have
places,
never
and
seen a
people who are
message
in
saying that I
line,
have to cool off on
they're
Uphold.
passionate, and they're going to stay in line. This is a historic election. It feels like people are looking at a
Holy
record
fucking
of Donald
shit,
Trump
bro.
versus a record of Kamala Harris-Biden.
I don't know. Maybe I need to cool off. Maybe it's going to be
podcasters
10
like
cents
Joe
again
Rogan
tomorrow.
endorsing
What
Donald
we got
Trump
going
last
over
night,
here?
and more views than he'd ever get on CNN.
Yeah, that's right. And
I hope not.
optimistic when it comes to
It's going to make me
who's going
wait
to
60
win, because
hours before I can withdraw more money.
And as for the media coverage, well, that hasn't been close.
I mean,
at
they
all.
want me to
We've seen
buy
how
Caspa directly on
negative
Uphold
the
rather than
networks
buy
have been towards
USDT
Donald
and
Trump.
send
The
it
Media
to
Research
L Bank
Center
and
had
XD.
done a recent
That's their
study,
problem.
and they
But
found that the coverage,
holy
the news coverage
frack.
of Donald Trump was 85% negative and 78%
Holy
positive
crap.
for Kamala
I don't
Harris
know.
throughout this cycle. And think about how Harris and her campaign had treated the media. They were dodging interviews. They were giving short interviews. They didn't want to do the press conferences.
Short
they weren't
interviews,
answering
they
basic
suck.
questions about the policies that they supposedly supported. So
Oh, man, what
based
the
on how the
fuck,
Harris
bro?
campaign treated the media, you think they would have been a little
All right, so I was only able to send another $300 to L
what
Bank.
added on, and then at the last minute, they give Kamala Harris the opportunity to do a skit, and it wasn't even funny. I'm sure you guys watched it.
It wasn't funny,
pure cringe.
and it wasn't original either.
The gut.
Yeah, it was the same skit that Jimmy Fallon Donald Trump did several years ago.
And to your point, Lauren Michaels had said we're not going to put anybody on, but when they look at things and they're saying, okay, let's give her another lifeline here, as a lot of the legacy media has done, and the rhetoric after 2 assassination attempts to continue to go out there and use the words fascist and Hitler, really so concerning and really it's disgraceful, in fact.
Yeah. Stephanie, Trey, great to have you both with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, election integrity, a big issue this evening. Everyone wants to make sure their vote is counted.
Absolutely, how it's being
popular
monitored
vote's
in
catching
the
up.
major
She's catching up.
battleground states. A closer look
That's
at how
not good.
officials maintain quality control at the ballot box to ensure a fair result. That is next on our special election night coverage. Vote for America. We're so glad you're with us right here.
All right, let me open up another incognito window.
We're back after a very quick break.
Oh, let me try to trade that $350 of USDT that Uphold allowed me to send to L Bank. Fucking bastards.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes.
Man.
Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and
We're
I'm
still pumping,
so
still pumping.
excited. We even have a video.
That
and
means
all
we're
he
gonna be
uses
rich.
is a
Let's put in some
small
music.
amount on a clean, dry face. And what it
Let's
does
lower
is it
this. What's
tightens
this?
and lifts
Some music. Buy more Kaspa. We gotta pump it up. Get out the Google Authenticator. It's not there yet. Yeah, it takes like freaking forever. You send USDT like the XT and L Bank. You gotta wait. Then you trade it into Kaspa, and then you want to withdraw the Kaspa to like the Tangent with your 1 key, but then you gotta wait even more. Although I think XT takes an extra long time to make me wait for that, whereas L Bank doesn't make me wait for that. So yeah, my USDT isn't there. Should be almost instantly. I'm using the Polygon network, but yeah, they bastards. Anyways, bastards of this evening is Uphold. I have never seen them give me a message saying I have to cool off and wait 60 hours before I can withdraw again.
For Donald Trump, so here we are.
Fucking fucked up. Alright, let me turn up ready.
It's only partially visible to us on the press riser. That is showing, let's just call it another network. And anytime that network flashes a result that is favorable to the vice president, we hear a roar of approval from those several thousand supporters on hand here. When that same network shows results that are favorable to the former president, Donald Trump.
Let's just do a quick check on everything else. How's MAGA?
For the blasting music, the setup here, I have to say, I have to do a
378.
little fetching. It's
alright, it's still the same thing it was a week ago. There's still Dark MAGA. Dark MAGA is doing pretty. Yeah, where's the old time? I didn't even check that. Oh, I had a huge pump back in. Man, I had a huge pump back on August 12th when we were already hitting that sluggishness in the bearish season. It started like on August 2nd. I had a huge pump. That's crazy. So it was 2 cents on August 12th, and it's pumping right now to 1.7 cents. So it didn't get to its all-time high yet, but it's pretty good. I mean, we'll see what happens. What else we got going on? Bitcoin is at 72,000. Holy guacamole, dude. Holy guacamole. Holy guacamole, guacatole. That is amazing. Holy shit.
White House poll was that
What was the Bitcoin all-time high? It was like 73,800 or something like that. Like almost making it 74. Let's see. That shit's gonna do it tonight. That's gonna do it like right now.
Eastern time. That's not to say that
Holy crap, dude.
time. What that means is, according to the
What everything else I have in my portfolio? I got a ton of Ponky, but it's not really pumping right now.
Observatory in Northwest Washington to come
I got a ton of Brett. Brett is one of the biggest holdings I got. I guess. I guess behind Bitcoin and Kaspa, I think is Brett. I got the most in it.
Concerns about security across our nation's capital.
Excellent reporting by our
There's
James
some Pepe
Rosen.
too, but yeah, definitely
50/50,
Brett.
he says, all right,
I got a
there's much
tiny
more
bit of
excitement, of
MAGA
course, in some of the Donald
because I
Trump
bought
watch
into it
parties
too
in West
late.
Palm Beach.
I never thought a cat coin would pump when that thing first came out.
And former
Yeah, MAGA's been around a while. I saw that. I saw it like way back when. I was like, man, I was aware of this coin like back here, man. If I had bought that shit, holy crap, man! I never thought a cat coin would pump back then. Now it's like cats are like all over the place. So many cat coins that are pumping. Look at PopCat. I never actually bought into PopCat. I think it's just too late right now.
Maybe isn't prepared for what some of the results.
Although it could still pump.
What are you saying? The mainstream media is saying?
The legacy media here.
PopCat.
Jim's
yeah, what
laughing.
are you saying they're saying?
They're not prepared. Some of these results
Yeah, it's
here.
been, what did it come? It launched what, like at end of last year. Yeah, I mean, I saw PopCat when it was doing this climb. I'm like, I'm just too late. I had to buy at the top. And then it's like you look at it.
Let's set it in the context.
You look at it like.
You need 270
if you go back.
If Trump carries, as your projection shows, the Sun Belt swing states, Arizona.
If you go back to like when the market starts dumping with all the other coins,
Nevada, and North Carolina.
It didn't dump with everything else.
That he picks up one of the 3 northern states.
It didn't dump with
Wisconsin and
it just kept on pumping.
Michigan.
That's why I just never bought into it. I was like, how the hell am I going to buy this coin?
You've already pretty well said that he's
like,
going to win the Sun Belt.
It doesn't stop pumping. So probably a good long-term play.
The issue now is
I mean, my expectation when something is pumping like that, and I buy a coin, it's going to dump right afterwards because everybody else is going to cash out who bought previously. But it just never dumps. Fucking crazy bullish coin, PopCat.
And Michigan, where they just closed.
And I wasn't even paying attention to cat coins back then. Anyways,
Pennsylvania numbers reflecting early vote.
Going back to what else have I got here?
But we have to win one of Pennsylvania, Michigan.
Godius Maximus.
In order to win the presidency.
That shit pumping like crazy like a few weeks back. Went from like 0 to like 100 million in like 4 days.
Win all 3, that's the ball game.
Like 120 million. I bought it on 100 million. I became aware of it. I bought it like 100 million. And like a week later it was like 300 million. And now it's like another week later it's 700 million. So yeah, I did a 7x so far.
Donald Trump more path to victory than Kamala Harris has.
Punky, I bought crazy early. I got tons of Punky. Same thing with Turbo. I got a tiny bag of
battleground states in the Midwest. She's got to win
MAGA.
Pennsylvania. She's got to win Wisconsin. She's got to
MAGA. I got like $700-800 in MAGA. MAGA Trump.
She doesn't win all 3
and
of
that
those.
shit's got a
It's
pump.
over. But I think the real story here is tonight.
Andy Hoppy, I got a ton of Hoppy. Same thing with Myro.
Republican
I got a little bit of
Party and
Slurf.
change the electoral map. And the way he's
I
doing
think I
it,
sold
by
one
the
my
way,
SNCC.
is getting record percentages of black
I have like
voters
10 or
and
20
record
bucks of it in
percentages
L Bank. I just saw when I was just logged
The
in.
reason why, and look, Florida is no longer a
Bojack, I got a
state,
tiny bit.
but in Florida, he
Got a
killed
ton
it
of
tonight
Land Wolf.
among Hispanic voters.
I got
He
Land
took
Wolf on
a
ETH
place
and on
like
Sol.
Miami-Dade
Daddy Tate, I
County
got a
that he
tiny
lost by
bit.
30 points.
Bobo, I love Bobo. I got a
And now
tiny
he's
bit.
winning it by 11 points.
Same thing with Mother Iggy. I'm making a video of Mother Iggy.
He's getting
Crazy
15%
provocative video.
according to the exit
Hopefully
polls
it's gonna
in
come out
Georgia
soon.
among black voters.
The
And
last
if he can do that with
the last
Hispanic
week I had
voters
computer
and
trouble.
black
I had a lot of
voters
troubles.
in Pennsylvania,
Crazy
he's
shit
gonna
going on the
carry,
past
not
week.
just is Donald Trump going to win
But
Pennsylvania,
yeah, I
but
didn't
David
slow down with
Warren is
everything.
probably
But
going to also
anyways,
come across the finish line.
That would be huge. We've
Mother
already
Iggy.
seen, well,
then
West
we got
Virginia
more
went
cat
to
coins. Toshi, got some
Justice.
Toshi,
Joe
got some
Manchin,
Manaki.
Democrat, that's flipped. Also, Ohio has
Two
flipped,
more cat
in
coins.
favor in that Senate race too. So
Bernie Moreno.
winning that race over Sherrod Brown. So we're seeing this whole map kind of be remade right before our very eyes. Jim, great to see you.
Everything's green except for MAGA. How the hell's MAGA red right now?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So a lot of attention obviously being paid tonight to Bianca to Pennsylvania,
and
that data is still trickling in.
13% up for the day. 13%.
Yeah, and it may be
Why
a
does my
while,
watch list say it's red?
In that
It's totally
state,
not red.
It may be a while in Pennsylvania, and they also
Why does the watch
mentioned
list say it's red?
Wisconsin, and there might be some.
Oh, past 1 hour.
counting in
Okay, I see.
Milwaukee. But let's
So the
look at
past
Georgia
24.
right now. Obviously,
Yeah,
Trump
13%
is
is
ahead
1 hour.
there.
Okay, yeah.
Georgia,
Yeah, everything's
state
pumping.
that,
Everything.
we
They
are
go
looking
straight
at the
down.
black vote outside of Atlanta.
The only thing,
Doesn't
if I
seem like
from
it
the
turned
top of the
as
list, I
much
go straight
for
down. The
Kamala
first thing
Harris,
is
which
red for the
an
24-hour
indicator of,
period is
Donald Trump
Tron
really
Bowl.
being able to connect with everyday Americans.
Yeah, Mother
you heard
Iggy
Obama
is
go
up
out on the campaign
25%.
trail telling,
Everything is
black men to
everything
go
is
out behind
up.
Kamala, and it wasn't
Draghi
really
is
received
down.
well. Donald Trump, and
Trog. Trog is another Trump coin. Trump frog.
And then she
It's
tried to
down.
do it, and it just never
Frog
really
has been
rang
reaching
sort of
new
authentic.
all-time
And,
highs.
clearly,
Yeah.
now we're watching
So
some of
in
the
my
results
Discord,
coming
I got an
in.
all-time
National
high
President
alert.
Carter is in a
Let's see if I
key
can.
state,
Maybe I can.
obviously, of Pennsylvania.
share that?
He's been tracking sentiment in Pittsburgh,
Let
near
me check my
Butler.
Discord.
Mike, good to see you.
So in my Discord, I got a ton of alerts, ton of jobs. Let's see. No, that's that one. That's me. That's that. There we go. Here's my Discord. So yeah, this is a new coin alert. Look, crazy amounts of Trump coins the last few days. This is a new coin alert. Whenever there's a new coin, I get alerts for all the new coins. That's how I get to all the best coins. I get to research them right away. As soon as, in this case, in this particular job, this particular alert, it comes from CoinMarketCap. That's how I get a hold of these new coins early. But in my all-time high alert, yeah, I was like every single. I got Hoppy doing an all-time high, Frog. The next is every single day, Frog. It is pumping, and I'm glad I bought into that bad boy. Going back to that, Frog. Let's open that bad boy up. Look at that bullish chart, man. Holy guacamole. That is why it gets a goddamn like a all-time high every single day in my Discord. Holy guacamole. I'm making tons of money on that. So yeah. Anyways, what else we got going on here? Let's do this.
Paul Rogers, the lead singer of Bad
Hey,
Company,
why the
which
hell
is
did it do
Mike.
this?
That's who's Mike Carter is competing with. You heard a lot of Bad Company all right now coming through. The music is cranking.
Mike Rogers is running for Senate, though.
Mike Rogers is running for Senate in
Yeah,
Michigan.
there we go.
Paul Rogers is the lead singer of Bad Company, and Mike Carter is our reporter.
Anyway, that's that. Yeah, I mean that's another alert. The most popular meme coins. I'm getting an alert every single day for the top 20 meme coins that are newest meme coins, and again the most centralized exchanges. Lagodius Maximus, woohoo! My God, man! Look at that. 40 centralized exchanges in the last 30 days. That is amazing. Holy guacamole. We're going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars.
It's not just that he won them, but he picked up more electoral college
Yeah, hold on.
votes
Let's
because
get this feedback. I guess when I move away from the window.
three big states,
There it
blue
goes.
states for the Democrats, Illinois, New York.
How are we doing over
They
here?
each lost an electoral college vote each because so many people have moved out of those
I want to let my
states.
fellow YouTubers
Texas
in on a
picked
secret.
up
There's actually a
new seats. Florida picked up an
We're going to make
extra seat.
billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Look at all that red. Look at all that red.
4 years ago. And so,
Lots of red.
already short of electoral college votes in several blue states, which were solidly on her side.
Exactly.
I'm glad you brought that up because it also brings us to a state that polls are closing at 10 p.m. Eastern, and that is the state of Nevada.
Aside from that,
it has also had a lot of people that have left California going to Nevada. You're looking at, you know, Clark County. There's 6 electoral votes there. Also Washoe, which is Reno. That, you know, obviously they have a Democratic machine there. Their ground game is solid in Nevada, but some, you know, Trafalgar and others saying that Nevada is a state that is in play for Donald Trump. Something it could go his way again. The polls have not closed there yet, but your feeling on that and the fact that we're even talking about Nevada being possibly going for Donald Trump now this time around 2024.
Yeah, but remember, one of the
I can't believe I
problems
can't buy
in
no more
Nevada
Kaspa
is
because
during the COVID pandemic, they put in an emergency
I guess I
rule
can
of
upload
mailing
a
an
Kraken, but
absentee ballot to every single registered voter. Even though COVID is now over, they actually made that the law. One of the problems with that is that their voter registration list is so bad, so filled with people who should no longer be on the list, fake addresses and so forth, that there's a real risk, unfortunately, in Nevada of fraud occurring in a very close election. So Nevada is one of the states I actually worry about.
Well, right now, Newsmax has no reason to, you know, believe that any voter fraud occurred in that, you know, instance here. But the fact that, you know, no tax on tips, policies that help American workers, people there who are working in, you know, Las Vegas, you know, the fact that there is some kind of real policy where Kamala Harris has been talking about just joy and vibes. And tonight, the joy and vibes seem to be over in states that you've talked about, like Florida and Texas, where people are calling it for Donald Trump. Pennsylvania, obviously, still too early to call, but that will be one with 19 electoral votes. Both of them definitely desperately need it.
That is true. And, you know, keep an eye on the fact that, you know, what we're seeing all over the country actually shows the importance of the electoral college, because Trump is winning some of the less populated states, the states in the Midwest, states in the South. Where is Harris winning? The big cities, the big urban areas, and that's why the Electoral College is so important, because
let's see if I can go to another.
if it weren't,
I had this thing open before. I have no idea what this is. I was looking for the major news networks. I couldn't really. This is USA Today. Isn't too much. This one is. This is CBS. Okay. I think I was the only one besides Newsmax was the only major news network. So what we got going on over here?
And that is for Republican leader in the Senate. He's thrown his hat into the ring. He's been very critical of current leader McConnell. McConnell is stepping back, but will remain in the Senate here. So I believe those elections take place internally for Republicans on the House and Senate side, November 13th. We won't put the cart before the horse here. We'll focus on today's election. But I just want to get your sense here. Let's focus on the Harris-Trump campaigns right now. And Tom, you got a lot of sources within the Trump campaign. That's their election night watch party. We have this, what we call a switched feed here. We're seeing a lot of folks there with red MAGA hats. I also just saw one of these Jewish Trump voters as well. You see there, people taking selfies. So, you know, you can get a sense of the vibes. You can't really glean anything results-wise from how the parties are doing. Maybe a little bit later on you can, but what do you see when you look at this shot we have inside Trump HQ?
Well, you know, this campaign, you know, we've talked about this extensively throughout the election, is, you know, as Trump campaigns go, has been remarkably disciplined. All right, and you got to give credit to Susie Wiles there and Chris LaCivita and Tony Fabrizio, kind of that trio at the top of this operation. All right, but there have been a lot of concerns. I mean, look, when the Iowa poll came out, Ann Selzer showing a lot of problem with women voters in Iowa for Trump. You know, you started seeing that reflected by Trump himself on stage at these rallies, all right? Whether it's performative on purpose or whether he's just getting tired and, you know, worn out, whatever the reason, he's very transparent in his emotions and how he's feeling about things. We've always known that about him. So I don't know. Look, the early results that we're seeing, again, go back to the Sun Belt, especially Georgia and North Carolina, doing incredibly well there. And if these exit polls turn out to be correct, with a larger number of men breaking for Trump, especially with minorities, Black and Latino voters, that gives a lot of confidence, all right? And you can see that reflected in the crowd. But there's still a lot of concerns with women breaking hard for Harris, all right, in the last couple days of the race. So still a lot to be determined here.
Yeah,
still,
Tom,
this is early.
It is early, Tom. I mean, I keep reiterating that point. We have a live picture, though, at Harris's election night watch party there on the campus of Howard University. Of course, she's an alum there. So let's talk about how the Harris campaign might be feeling. I've been citing this all day today, Tom. Senior advisor to the Harris campaign, David Plouffe, was on CNN last night at this time with Aaron Burnett. He says the campaign, they believe they can win all 7 battleground states. Now, is that what some political pollsters and pundits call hopium or not here? What does that mean?
No.
Let's go on and see what's going on at CBS.
Soon will happen in the coming days. Do you expect more of these videos or these threats? Do you have a anticipation of the threat picture in Georgia?
Well, in Georgia, we're basically done voting. We're waiting for our overseas military ballots, about 10,000 ballots that have to be postmarked by today at 7 p.m. and have to be received by Friday per federal law. And so that's about all that's left to count, but we'll have everything else buttoned up tonight.
Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for all you do for democracy.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to 60 Minutes correspondent Bill Whitaker. He's part of our Democracy Watch team tonight. And Bill, I know you have some new reporting about what's happening in Philadelphia.
Well, we've got reporting that former President Donald Trump is claiming that there is massive cheating happening in Philadelphia. He made this claim on his Truth Social site this evening. Seth Bluestein, a Republican city commissioner, says there is absolutely no truth to this allegation. The Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner chimed in, also saying there is no factual basis for any of these claims. And if you will remember, Donald Trump made similar claims about Philadelphia in 2020.
Bill Whitaker, thank you. And David, what do we see about that in terms of the former president claiming that there's cheating going on?
Yeah, we saw this in 2020. He said the same thing about the same 3 cities, and ironically, he actually outperformed his 2016 performance in 2020 in all of those 3 cities, if memory serves. So what we're seeing is no significant problems in those cities. We're seeing a lot of enthusiasm. Certainly, we know that there are people who are in line waiting to vote in Philadelphia, but that's the process. That's the way it works everywhere, and he's actually encouraging voters who are in line in Pennsylvania to continue to stay in line and vote, as everyone should be.
Cecilia Vega, you did a great report for 60 Minutes on Pennsylvania. What have you learned tonight?
Well, this isn't, Nora, thank you. This isn't a mistake. This is a strategy from the former president. He is laying the groundwork to challenge the results, and he did it in 2020, and he started this with Pennsylvania months ago and basically has been doing it all day. Look no further than his ally, his close advisor, Steve Bannon, who said Trump should preemptively claim victory. And we just heard from special counsel filings a few days ago that in 2020, Bannon said just because Trump claims victory, it doesn't mean he's the winner, but he's still going to say it anyway. This is all a strategy to sow doubt. And the folks in Pennsylvania, the governor there said they are very legitimately worried about the damage that this could do, the potential for violence in the streets that we could see as a result of this, because people get whipped into a frenzy because the former president has told them their vote has not been taken seriously. There are real consequences to lies like this when they're spread.
And his words have power and they believe them. Believe him. We saw that when we were there.
Exactly. And we see in the exit polls, too, that people are concerned about violence in the days ahead. We have much more to talk about when we come back. More poll closings, including the key battleground state of Nevada. CBS News America Decides Election 2024 returns in just a moment.
162. 210. What's going on here?
Okay, so let's just start at the beginning.
Well, let me start with this. What is at stake here?
What is the answer then?
Do you know why? You want me to just keep going?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Were there death threats?
How is this possible?
What's wrong with that argument?
Are you saying they lied?
Have you told the government that? Why won't you say the word crisis?
You're not answering my question.
This really
Is that scary?
Does that make sense?
What do you mean? What does that mean?
Did any of that make
What
sense?
have you learned? What's your response?
What happened?
They got
It's time for the CBS News Original 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
The election?
There is no
more
room
in our city.
New York City is receiving record numbers of migrants.
Today, we're going to have more than 500 adults and children come through that door.
Tensions rise as shelters reach max capacity.
We don't have to take care of
CBS Reports goes inside a crisis cities and families are facing as they fight to survive.
The United States still has a glimmer of hope for people to come here.
Fighting for a future. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
I don't know. Let's go back to the Newsmax. Let's get current.
Hillary Clinton was having her listening tour.
Hillary Clinton, I just hear Hillary Clinton.
Even more breaking because Hillary Clinton did have to win a race once she was introduced to New York in this listening tour, even though she wasn't a New Yorker. Kamala Harris never won anything, and here she is nominated to be president of the United States. It really was an offense to Democrats. They're being told that they're voting to defend democracy, but in fact, they had democracy pulled right out from under their feet by their own party leaders.
Yeah.
Not one single press conference either, Kamala Harris.
She didn't do a press conference. She dodged a lot of interviews.
Right.
She never had a moment on the campaign trail. We talked about this earlier. Bill Clinton, I feel your pain kind of moment, never really broke through. She also had a lot of favorable media coverage. And the fact that this race and Donald Trump is even in a position that he's in right now, considering all those things, I think tells us a lot about Kamala Harris and her lack of ability as a candidate, Betsy.
She is a very poor candidate, and you've heard more and more Democratic professional politicians and strategists admit that over the last 3 days, that Kamala Harris just did not measure up. It was a big mistake to slide her into Joe Biden's position instead of having a very rapid mini primary of sorts.
Yeah, and you know, interesting too, you see a guy like Barack Obama out there on the campaign trail in the last days, pushing hard for Kamala Harris, pushing the very fine people hoax. He knows that's not true. He pushed it anyway, but he waited a long time before he actually got on board with Kamala Harris. He wanted to have an open primary process, and they were all stuck with her. And, you know, the limitations of being able to mount a presidential campaign in this short amount of time with a candidate who's never proven herself, these are the results you get.
It was highly cynical. Let's face it. It was very, very cynical. A slap in the face to Americans, Democrats and Republicans alike, who believe in a fair system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, protecting democracy here. Well, today, Americans are at the ballot box. There are still polls that are open, and 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 a.m. Former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, now our morning anchor here on N2. We'll be waking up with you as well tomorrow, Betsy. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
I saw a video today. Someone took a super clip where it was all the clips of the pundits talking about, oh, they're going to destroy democracy, but they replaced the word democracy with bureaucracy. It makes a lot more sense when you think of it in those terms, right?
I always love those clips, and you're like, whoever made that, doing a great job. All right, folks, we are in it now, and we are so glad you are with us. We're going to take a very quick break. We're back with much more here on Election Night on N2.
More polls closing at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Montana, Nevada, Utah. We'll bring you those results as soon as we have them. A live look for you here at the Trump Victory Party in West Palm Beach, Florida. Very creative hat.
Oh.
By that Trump supporter right there.
Could go for some French fries about right now.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. All right, we'll see you in just a few moments.
All right, what's going on? Let's pause this. What's going on here?
With a great deal of passion. Right now, we are at a viewing party for the Republican Party. They're counting and they're seeing as the results from other states are trickling in. And we're just a few minutes away from when the polls are supposed to close. I was just talking to the chairman of the GOP here in the state of Nevada. He was telling me in places like Nye County, though, there are still people standing in line for about 3 hours. What that means is that even though the state has changed the rules to make sure that they're counting the votes that are coming in from either in-person in-person early or mail-in ballots up until today early. They started those
Hope
in-person
it
early
doesn't
this morning
pump
when
too
the polls
much
opened.
because
They're not going to be able to release those results until the last person who was standing in line by 7 p.m., which is about 3 minutes away, has voted. So there's that delay. Besides that delay, of course, there's the tabulation, the taking of all of the in-person votes, but we expect at least a dump of data to come in to know how many voters have voted in person, and as well as the ones as the early votes. Here's what we're paying attention to. This is a state that has a very large nonpartisan, independent, or other voters. So even though the GOP chairman I was just talking to and the voters here that are here for supporting former President Trump are celebrating that there have been more Republican-affiliated voters in those early votes and also in the in-person votes that we saw from earlier today. The undecided, or rather the nonpartisan group, is so large that it's really hard to arrive at any conclusion from that. We expect to start seeing those numbers, but the results might not come for hours, is what we're hearing.
I saw a conversation today about where it was.
In Las Vegas. Thank you so much for your reporting.
Told me,
as you mentioned, polls are about to close in Nevada as well as other states, Montana and Utah. Stay with CBS News to watch the returns throughout the evening and throughout tomorrow. You're watching CBS News.
So Dark
America
MAGA
decides.
All right, this is the one, right? 2776. Is it this one, D-MAGA? So it's ranked lower, so the market cap is lower.
Star approaching, superstar approaching.
All right. Let's go back.
That's right. Let's do it.
And now you can, with the help of
Why is nothing but commercials everywhere? What the hell's going on?
I just, based on what we're blue wall to hold.
Sure. Before we go, Tom, I got to ask you about Puerto Ricans, because
Puerto
there's an
Ricans.
interesting statistic coming out of Osceola County. This is just south of Orlando. Right now, Trump, with 95% of the votes counted, Trump has 50%, Harris 48. So Trump's up by 2 points. If I'm looking back 4 years ago, Biden won Osceola County by 14
Oh, so
points.
Dark MAGA on
So we're
Seoul
seeing
and
a
Dark MAGA on
sizable
East
shift.
look like this.
This
They have the
county is
same
important
chart.
because I believe
Look at
around
that
a third
pump.
of the population there are Puerto Ricans. What do you make of Trump seeming
Oh, let me
to gain some
pop these on
ground in a
different
county
tabs
like
so I don't
this?
Yeah.
D-MAGA.
You know, one of the big things, and this is really important. We had Mike Madrid
Right, so let me
on the Ground Game podcast
doesn't-
recently. He
doesn't
specializes
work?
in Latino voters. Look at the way Trump talks about immigration, the wall, wanting to crack down on immigration. Especially, you know, of course, now we should note here, of course, that Puerto Ricans are Americans, all right? But culturally, the problem was Tony Hinchcliffe dumping on the entire culture. It was very
Market
racist.
cap is 17 million
Trump,
with
if you
the
listen
one on
to him,
Solana and 1.3
talks a
on with
lot
the one
about
on ETH.
illegal immigration, and among
The
Latino
chart's
voters,
the same.
especially people who have been here
Crazy
3 and
pumps.
4 generations deep now. All right.
What have we got? Centralized
they
exchanges.
agree with
Oh,
that.
the one on ETH doesn't
And you
have any
start to see
centralized
that
exchanges. What
movement
about them?
among
Yeah,
the
the one on
younger Latinos.
the one in
towards
Solana
Trump.
is, yeah,
And
10
that's
centralized exchanges.
really
yeah.
key in
Sorry to
understanding
pay
this
attention to this,
dynamic.
but yeah, it's
You
pumping.
also got to remember too, especially for Latinos, you know, large South American population, Colombian, Venezuelans, you know, Cubans are getting older now. All right, the expats.
Yeah, I'll keep the tab open,
down
see
in
how it
Florida,
performs tonight.
Very
How's
traditionally
Bitcoin?
conservative.
Oh my God,
And you
it
got a
is
lot of
almost near the
downside.
all-time high.
So
Holy guacamole,
you know, when we
guacatole.
talk about voter groups, no group is a monolith. And sometimes Democrats seem to forget that.
All right, Tom will
The
be on
all-time
24
high
site.
was-
Tom, can't thank you enough. This
What was it? I guess it was
entire
here,
year, you've
right?
been so instrumental.
Thank you, guys.
Austin, thank you too. We're going to take our final commercial break of this hour. More results where that came from. We're also going out live
No, it
to
was
the
like
Trump Advance Watch Party
73,800.
in West Palm Beach. Some of our reporters
Let's-
standing
let's,
by. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
What was it? This is 72. thought it was like, the all-time high was 73. It wasn't 72. Oh. That was earlier this year, right? Was it 72 or am I mistaken? Well, either way, we beat it. Even if it was 7,300, we just beat the. I mean, from my understanding, 7,300 was the all-time high of Bitcoin, so we just beat it. We just, yeah. As far as I can understand, 73, yeah. I mean, 7,300, yeah. I think that no matter what happens, it's going to hit 74, and I can, probably next hour, even next few minutes. Holy crap. Yeah. All right, we're in a commercial break.
State Revive. President Trump was in support of Amendment 3, so there was the contrast.
Yeah, Bitcoin.
President Trump and Governor DeSantis about Amendment 3, but as I said, both of those down ballot amendments failed this evening. This is Trump is at some point expected to come here. Whether that happens tonight really depends. And another big cheer going up. It looks like having to do with the numbers coming out of Virginia. But the campaign, even former President Trump earlier today, said that he was going to more than likely be coming to the convention center, but it really depends.
Oh, so Harris is finally beat him with a popular vote. We were thinking that he was going to win the popular vote, but we'll see.
We'll just have to see. But what we do know, John and Bianca, as I mentioned earlier, former
Oh,
President
hell
Trump
yeah.
isn't
Bitcoin 74, yeah, look at that.
Is there with close friends, his senior advisors, campaign staff, Elon Musk,
I'm telling you.
watching the election results come in there, and then they'll make that determination when and really at what time ultimately he would come to the convention center. But I can tell you this, the mood here, very energetic, very optimistic, very nervous. I keep hearing that a lot, John and Bianca. People say, man, I'm nervous. I think we've all been. Look, this has been an extraordinary campaign and road to get to this point, this historic evening, and that is certainly being felt here in the room right now, you guys.
Look at this.
John Huddy for us live in West Palm Beach, Florida. John, thank you for that. The updates on those amendments. They do have to get 60% of the vote to pass, and they're not doing that. And the Amendment 3, the issue to legalize recreational marijuana
in Florida,
they spent a ton of money trying to get that to pass. And there was a big problem with the law. Governor DeSantis called it out for this. Even though it legalizes recreational marijuana, you were not allowed to grow it at your house. It was a gift to a lot of these big marijuana companies, according to Ron DeSantis, and his influence probably being felt there. All right, let's do an update now on the situation in Pennsylvania. We got some new data coming in, and as you can see here on the screen, it is so close. It's gone back and forth. Kamala Harris is leading by just 0.5 of a percentage point right now. So you can see how close it is in Pennsylvania. And when we had Senator Santorum on before, as I call him, Mr. Pennsylvania, he was indicating that some of these counties, with the election results coming in, we're going to go ahead and turn red, and that's what it's looking like. Just Allegheny County in the Pittsburgh area right now is trending towards Kamala Harris with 66% of the vote in, but all the surrounding counties around Pittsburgh are shaded red right now for Donald Trump. And this is not good news for the Harris campaign right now. Obviously, they're still in the lead. We got just 43% of the votes being counted, but what's happening right now is it's trending in the direction that Donald Trump wants to see. A lot of the early votes were not counted until the polls closed at 8 o'clock. Those results are coming in, but what we saw is Republicans outperform what they've done in the past with the early voting, with the mail-in voting, and traditionally they have shown up on Election Day as well. And the question was the early voting going to cannibalize the day of voting? And we don't see any evidence of that right now.
And also in Allegheny County, and this is the suburbs of Pittsburgh, it's important to note in the past, this was Clinton plus 17, Biden plus 20. It speaks to perhaps her
holy guacamole
strength as a candidate.
It is.
Out. And also the black vote.
I got a little bit tired.
Was in Pittsburgh last night. Steel workers
having a twisted tea here. I hardly ever drink.
Weeks ago, and you just saw sort of this wide swath of voters. Even announcing he had he had
Maybe I need a glass of water.
Did that in Pittsburgh. He brought Megyn Kelly out.
But
She
yeah,
spoke
this
about
is
the
good,
mothers
good
and the
stuff. Got
trans
a
issue. So Donald
Bitcoin
Trump has
all-time
really
high.
been
Look
able
at
to
that
effectively
pumping, man.
articulate a
Holy
message that's resonating with
guacamole.
people from a lot of different backgrounds. And you knew that the metro areas there in Pittsburgh were the key to deciding this race. Again, Pennsylvania, you just showed it, John. Pretty
Unbelievable,
exciting
bro.
Donald Trump this evening looking at those results.
And we heard the cheers in the background when John Huddy was reporting live from West Palm Beach. Let's check in with James Rosen, our chief White House correspondent, who's at the Harris party, to see if we've had any similar eruptions of cheers. James, what can you tell us?
It's been a while since we heard some cheering from the several thousand Harris supporters attending here tonight at Howard University, the vice president's alma mater, awaiting their favorite candidate, who's still going to be some time before she arrives here.
Holy guacamole, this is a good night.
From the giant sound systems, and instead there's a giant TV screen showing what we will delicately call another network. And every time that network shows results favorable to former President Trump, it is deathly quiet amongst the several thousand folks in attendance here tonight. And when that screen shows results favorable to the vice president, then we usually hear a roar. But
yeah,
recently they showed Michigan, which of course is not got a majority of the votes counted even, and where the vice president is believed to enjoy a slight lead. And until just a few moments ago when that Michigan screen flashed, anytime Michigan showed up, even with a slight lead, no matter how small the number of ballots counted in the Great Lakes state, the crowd was cheering. But this time when they brought up Michigan, it barely got a response from this crowd. So when you ask me what is the vibe here, vibes being so important to the Harris for President campaign since the beginning in July, I would say it's starting to turn a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit wary, a bit apprehensive. That's really the word I'm looking for. And we know that President Biden is also watching the returns in the White House, the forgotten man in tonight's balloting. He's placed calls to a number of the winners tonight so far, various mayors and governors-elect. And it was interesting also to see what the vice president spent her time doing today. She was at the vice president's residence, the U.S. Naval Observatory grounds in Northwest Washington. She spent part of the morning calling into 4 different radio programs, one in Pittsburgh, one in Philadelphia, one in Atlanta, and then one in Raleigh, North Carolina. Each of them strategic choices showing where the campaign thought potentially in these late hours, these last hours of voting, they could still mobilize voters. And then the vice president took an unannounced trip over to DNC headquarters in Washington. She was greeted by the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, and she arrived with deep thanks and boxes of Doritos for the volunteers there. She spent a bit of time, the vice president did, manning the phone bank. At one point, she asked if someone had voted, and she asked their name and said, well, I'm Kamala Harris. And then she said, we're waiting for you to grow 10 years, meaning that the phone banks had succeeded in placing the Democratic Party nominee on the phone with an 8-year-old. In any case, the last we heard from the White House press pool that is holding steady
what else we got going on here?
residence was that there was a lid, which is White House lingo, meaning nothing's
What are
going
the all-time
on,
highs?
nothing to cover, no movement, no events, until 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. That's just the earliest, according to the White House, that the vice president might set out the few miles journey across Washington, D.C. from the vice president's residence here to her alma mater,
I got a lot of hope for this one,
University.
too.
John and Bianca.
Just real quickly, James, you said there's people gathering
Taking
there,
out
but
an
no
all-time
one's
high,
behind you. Are
but-
they corralled off over? Is there like an open bar or something? It just seems so lackluster there. And
Do we have an open bar?
I know said network, they're cheering, so maybe it's TV monitors, or they put you in the cheap seats.
Well, through research and deep investigative reporting, I can confirm that there is no open bar present here tonight. But I'm going to ask my cameraman, Mike Palmer, to widen out and pan out a little bit so we can give you a better view of the scene here, and maybe push in, if you could, Mike, so that you can see the several thousand supporters. The vice president, when she speaks, is going to be standing at a lectern protected by bulletproof glass, aided by teleprompters, in front of Frederick Douglass Memorial Memorial Hall, a place of great symbolism here at Howard University and perhaps across the country. Now, I don't know what you can see there. You can see the crowd standing, right? It's an open area, grassy area, fenced in, and well behind them, there are two sections of bleachers. I would say maybe 30 to 40% of this several thousand throng has bleacher seats. The rest are standing. And guess what, folks? They have been standing, most of them since around 5 p.m., 4 p.m. today, and they have a lot of standing still to go. The question is whether they'll have occasion for much cheering later this evening.
James Rosen, excellent reporting. Thanks for that pan, just to give us sort of a visual of what you're seeing behind you there. Maybe not that much joy, but, well, they're hoping.
Joy is a relative term, Bianca.
Really?
You know, you have to be able to find joy, even when the chips are down. Let's welcome in now former National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign and former Principal Deputy Press Secretary at the White House. You know him, you love him. It's Hogan Gidley back with us this evening, holding the microphone like he's a professional, like he's a reporter out there. It's not always easy. It's not as easy as it looks, but Hogan makes it look easy. Hogan, give us an update.
It kind of is that easy.
It kind of is. All right. All right. Maybe just not easy for me. But, Hogan, give us an update. We're looking at the numbers coming out of Pennsylvania now. It looks like Donald Trump has just creeped out to a lead there. Things are looking very promising in Wisconsin
Trump creeped
as well.
out to a lead.
Perfect.
Hell yeah.
Listen, this has long been a conversation inside the campaign and then within members of the media too, is to watch what they have done with the early vote and then watch what they're doing on day of voting. The question always was, are you cannibalizing your day of vote? And instead of them voting on election day, you just have them vote early, but the numbers don't change. I don't think that's the case. Right now, what we're seeing, a lot of optimism on our side because
Let's go back to Kaspa
those
right
early
now.
voters
7. It says, oh my God, it's going to get to 12 cents.
Voters. They're the 0 to 1 to
It's
2
going
to
to
3
get to 12
scale. They're on
cents.
the low end of people who support politicians at all. In fact, most of them didn't vote. The last time I guess they participated was somewhere around 2018. So the fact is,
Kaspa's going to get to 12. Look at that. My God, man. Oh my God. Holy guacamole.
Looks like right now it's paying off. Of course, there's some high increase in vote tallies in Pennsylvania, or excuse me, in Philadelphia, but it's in the areas where Trump is most popular. So we have a long way to go tonight. Who knows when this thing is going to get called? But right now, I'd much rather be where Donald Trump is than where Kamala Harris is. And now
What are some of these other ones that?
2016, 2020.
How's
I've never seen numbers like this for Donald Trump.
He was very calm today, too.
How's Hoppy doing?
It felt like he ran the best campaign. That's when he was voting with Melania. We know he's at Mar-a-Lago with Elon Musk and friends and family.
Yeah, that
Obviously, he
Hoppy's
had his entire
it's not a
family
real-time
out
high,
at the
right?
rallies
Because
last night.
this was
We were
real-time
watching
high.
obviously history in
Like
the
last
making.
week.
Hogan, the messaging, as someone who was once, deputy press secretary, what other networks were saying, and the fascists, the Nazis, how legacy media really hasn't, been attacking Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris as a candidate was able to use that to her advantage, but still maybe not to an advantage for the American people who are seeing through legacy media's lies.
I think so, in large part because Donald Trump's not a Nazi or a fascist
Hell
because
no.
he was already president and didn't operate that way. Not to mention the whole thing is an absolute lie. If Donald Trump really was a Nazi and they really believe that, then why would Joe Biden put on a MAGA hat and a rally and joke around? Why would Senate candidates on the Democrat side be using Donald Trump
Oh my God, dude.
win an election? Why would they sit there in the room while Donald Trump was giving jokes at the Al Smith dinner if he was so bad? They know that's not true. And Kamala Harris is so inauthentic. She's a say anything, do anything politician to get votes, and you know that.
She's a clown.
She lies about Donald Trump. She lied about Joe Biden. She said he was a racist and a rapist on a debate stage. The thing about Kamala is you can't sell a bad product. And right now it looks as though, even though the time frame was
She's a cackling Kamala.
even though they had billions of dollars and 90% 100% positive news coverage on Kamala Harris, billions of dollars of free positive news coverage. It doesn't look like it's really made the impact they thought it would. We got a long way to go still tonight. A lot of numbers, a lot of folks still out there voting.
Let's check back on the numbers. Look at this.
But again, I've seen things now I have not seen.
I want to see this thing get to 75 tonight. It's got to get to 75.
That's right. History in the making. We the people.
It's got to get to 75. It definitely has to get 75. Fraud has an all-time high too.
Out west. So Hogan Gilley,
Fraud.
great to have you with us as you're
Fraud
kind
get
of
to
giving
45
us
cents.
a feel of what's going
Fraud.
on in the room there. We know we'll be checking back.
What are the coins that get into
and maybe
all-time
the morning
highs?
hours. Thanks, Hogan.
We'll be up late tonight. There's an after party too, I'm told.
Oh, really?
Just kidding.
Here
No
in
after
the
party.
studio.
I don't know what other coins that get to an all-time high
Just
today.
got a fresh coffee, so we're
Let's
good.
see.
Yes, I did
I'm
too.
not
Nice and
Bobo.
warm.
How's
Thanks to
Bobo
Jerry
been?
here in the studio
Look
bringing
what's
us
pumping,
All
but-
right, let's welcome in now host of the Leventhal Report here on
No,
YouTube, Rick
it's not gonna get-
Leventhal.
look at that. That's crazy.
And we were just talking with Hogan Gilley, Rick, about this realignment. And, you know, it's not just in one state, and there's only so much you can put into these exit polls. But when you look at Wisconsin,
What about
Donald Trump
Turbo?
has doubled his support among black voters in
What
Wisconsin
coins
and
are my
also in Georgia, too.
portfolio
We're
that
talking
are
about between 15 and
close to
20%.
an
In
all-time
Iowa,
high? Yeah, definitely
is
Turbo,
calling
yeah.
for Donald Trump here, 52
No?
to 47%. And this was a big
No,
topic
yeah.
of discussion.
Turbo would
That
have to
Ann
be like-
Seltzer poll from the Des
Turbo
Moines
like a couple
Register
weeks all-time
thought it was
high.
the gold standard. She came
Okay.
out with an outlier poll, Rick, and that had Kamala Harris ahead, but it clearly didn't pan out very well, did it?
Well, I want to share a personal story, John and Bianca. Back in 2016, I was working at the Republican headquarters in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on election night. And at some point during the night, I started paying attention to the New York Times.
Daddy Tate.
They have a
Daddy
graph
Tate
on their
did it.
website. I don't know if you can see
Went for
this,
like
but
$35
it's a
in
needle,
Daddy
and it
Tate or
goes
something
either
like
towards
that.
the blue for the Democrats
Yeah,
or towards
Daddy
the red for the
Tate, yeah, this
Republicans.
is-
And it was incredibly accurate. And I was there
Well,
until I
at
think 1
launch
or 2
has a
o'clock in the
high
morning
rate.
when they finally
High,
called
but yes.
Pennsylvania for Donald Trump back in 2016. Well, I've been watching that graph tonight. And I'm reporting on another outlet, the New York Times, but they've been very accurate on these things. And they now have a 78% chance of victory for Donald Trump. 78% chance, according to the New York Times right now. They have him winning 295 electoral votes to Harris's 243. They have Trump winning the popular vote by 0.6%, which would be remarkable if that proves to be the case, based on all of the negative press that Hogan mentioned and all of the stuff that's been thrown at Donald Trump, all the rhetoric, all the nastiness. If he can actually win the popular vote,
And then we're
crush
going to
Harris
make
in the
tons of money in
Electoral College, which it looks
crypto,
like he
just
might,
billions
the New York
and
Times
billions and
reporting that Donald
billions.
Trump has a 78% chance of victory right now.
People are texting me that as well about the needle in the New York Times, and I'm sure it kind of
Combine
kills
that
them
with
a
the
little to have to say that.
combine that with the betting markets, which of course are not
Please.
scientific.
Yes.
But
Oh, yeah.
the way people are feeling about it, you go on Polymarket right now, and it's pinned Donald Trump all the way to the top, Kamala Harris all the way at the bottom. No one's buying Harris, everyone's buying Trump. And you know, what can we figure? This is what people feel, not necessarily based on the results, but the results are probably leading people to feel this way clearly. And stuff like Rick was talking about, the needle pinned in favor of Republicans.
And Rick, I want to ask you too, because Kamala Harris has trotted out every celebrity under the sun that she could to try and get her
All right,
across
no
the
more
finish
Twisted
line.
Tea. I want to give me some
Oprah,
water.
You will never vote again. We heard last
I
night
am
in the
gonna take a little-
closing,
little break.
And you're in the West Coast and the
Give me
Southern
some
California. You
water.
know, the celebrity Holly Weird. You know, this has been sort of a crutch for her as a candidate.
Well, it could have backfired on her. Do we really care who Harrison Ford is voting for, or George Clooney says we should vote for, or who Lady Gaga is supporting? I mean, it's really no surprise that she would come out in favor of Kamala Harris, but we saw Hillary Clinton make that same mistake back in 2016. She had a big rally in Philadelphia the night before the election, and she brought out all the stars, and she lost Pennsylvania, and she lost the election. And a lot of people are making that comparison, saying that Kamala Harris spent too much time courting the celebrities and not enough time answering tough questions or connecting with real voters. And when Donald Trump kept asking that question, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? The answer for most people is absolutely not. And that could be a key reason why more people are picking Donald Trump in the voting booths than they are Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and think about the celebrities, too, that were endorsing the different candidates and what they actually do. I mean, Cardi B is going to sing some nasty lyrics to you. Oprah Winfrey is going to talk down to you and tell you how great her life is. But Elon Musk is going to build rockets. He's going to provide a car that you actually need, and Starlink, and provide internet for people who don't have it otherwise.
And bought Twitter.
Right. You think about Robert Kennedy Jr. and how he wants to make America healthy again. These are tangible things that people actually want, as opposed to the celebrities on the Democratic side. Sometimes sing you songs. Sometimes they don't perform, but they're there nonetheless.
Can
I take a moment here to just to pat myself on the back? When Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris, I went on Newsmax and said it wouldn't matter. They actually wrote it up in the New York Times.
Yes,
and
that's right.
it's on the. I'm on the record, and you know, it
207 to 91.
Celebrities
Okay.
don't do anything for the American
We're
public.
doing
They've
good.
seen their grocery bills go up. Perfect. And you know, what can you do for me? Celebrities, nothing. Basically, that's what it comes down to.
And look at the interview with Joe Rogan. Trump sat there for 3 hours in Joe Rogan's studio. Kamala Harris wouldn't do the interview with Joe Rogan unless Joe Rogan came to her and she wanted to limit it to an hour, which probably meant 28 minutes. But Donald Trump sat there for 3 hours, and he convinced Joe Rogan that he was real, he was authentic, he was funny, and he had a plan. He can answer any question. He's done this before. He's run successful businesses, and he's proven that he knows how to fix stuff and make things work. And he actually had a plan, and he was willing to sit there and take all those tough questions, and he convinced Joe Rogan to vote for him. And I think he convinced a lot of Americans that, hey, this guy is the answer. He's not a problem like Kamala Harris would be. This guy is the answer, and now the New York Times says Donald Trump has an 80%
Let's go back to BTC.
of winning this election, which is remarkable.
73.6. Well, that's
we heard a lot of
74,
reports.
but
It's of course
yeah.
anecdotal about
Where's
dudes
it
showing
going
up at the
down?
polling
It's not supposed to be
locations
going
today
down.
in
It's supposed
different
to be going
states,
up.
and
It's
you know,
supposed to be
you got to
going up.
think Joe
What's
Rogan
going
with his
on?
audience and that you know conversation with Elon Musk, the conversation with J.D. Vance to
it says
obviously a big
73.7.
impact. And not just one event with Donald Trump, that interview. It was kind of rolled out
And I
over
think men want
these
to
last
protect
few
their
days.
families and their wives, and
How's
you know,
Kaspa?
economically are getting hammered by an administration that points to who's going to help me and my family.
Yeah.
They want to be protectors.
Apparently the message got through. The message about the economy, the message about the illegal migrants who are criminals, who are targeting American citizens. The message got through.
Right. All right. We've still got a long way to go. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it is, of course, as Rick indicated, we're attributing this to the New York Times. They are predicting 80% for Donald Trump. All right. Let's get out to the Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council, Art Del Cueto, and talk about one of the big issues that voters have been using to motivate them this time when they head to the polls. Art, great to have you with us.
Yes, sir. I'm with you guys. I'm pretty excited. I think we're going to get a win today, and it's not a win for Donald Trump. People need to understand it's a win for America. That's what it comes down to. Because look, the chaos that you've seen at the border, if we continue with 4 more years of this, it's just not going to be able to be withheld. It's been a mess. We've had individuals from 168 different countries come through, and the only people that have been winning is the drug cartels and the smugglers. It needs to end.
Anybody, Art, but when I've talked to Border Patrol agents over the last few years, the morale has been so low. You think about what happened, especially with the horseback Border Patrol officers, the way they were accused of whipping those Haitian migrants, never got an appropriate apology from the Biden administration or the Department of Homeland Security and Alejandro Mayorkas. But just talk to us, Art, about what it would mean for all the Border Patrol officers who've basically been forced to kind of sit on their hands for the last 4 years. What will it mean to them to wake up tomorrow knowing that there will be a new sheriff in town in Washington, D.C.?
Look, I've been around for quite some time. I saw the morale boost back in 2016, but it's nothing compared to the morale that's going to be boosted after this election if we pull it through and Donald Trump is the new president of this country. Because, like I said, look, agents are frustrated. All they're asking for is to do their jobs. That's all they've been asking for. They realize processing is part of the job. However, tracking down smugglers and tracking down individuals that are coming into the country illegally is also part of their job, and they have been handcuffed on that side because of it. You're going to see the biggest morale boost that you have ever seen within the agency ever if Donald Trump can be the next president of the United States again.
Art, the last time I saw you in person, we were down at the border in Arizona with J.D. Vance in Montezuma Pass, and drones flying above our head from the other side in Mexico. But there's the human aspect of this that, the Democrats that purport to be, all for women, they're trying to drive women voters to Kamala. There's 320,000 missing children. There are women being raped as they come across with cartel members. There are children being sold into slave labor, sex trade, and then there are innocent women and children. Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Moore, and Laken Riley, we go on and go on. I think that really hit home in the past few weeks, where Donald Trump was able to humanize and tell that message through some really powerful folks, angel moms who came across. Can you just talk to us about the hypocrisy of the left and that issue right there? Because that hurts my heart as a mother.
No, absolutely. It's horrific what this administration has done. They've tried to flip the script and try to control the narrative, but people need to understand the crisis that we're seeing at the border, this administration has caused it. When you're seeing the children that are coming across, that they're missing children, that all falls on this administration because they empowered the smugglers, they empowered the drug traffickers, and they continue. Look, the drug traffickers don't care. They use the individuals that are coming across, they use them almost like human cattle. And this administration, with the lack of consequences towards the crime, have empowered them even more so. And we've all seen it. Look, President Trump had the plan to fix it, and the numbers were low. Day one of this administration taking over, everything boosted up. And the only individual that can fix it is Donald Trump. That's why I continue to say it's not just a win for Donald Trump, it's a win for America. And it's a win for the rest of the world, because they're the victims.
And if he was to win, not just deportations, but also penalties, if you kill an American, death penalty, things like that, taking on the cartels.
Dude, I'm on like
Artel
almost
Quinn,
2
you tell the
hours
story
now.
so well. We know you're a great force out there on the front line.
Good
so
times,
thank you
but
so much for being a part of our coverage tonight. We know the Border Patrol has some very dedicated folks there, and we appreciate them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Yeah, those
11-8.
Border Patrol agents that were accused of whipping those Asian
11-8.
migrants, hopefully, if things change,
Bitcoin.
they will get the justice that they deserve. Never fully been apologized
73-8.
to. All right, let's bring in now GOP strategist Joe Pinion to get his assessment on where things stand right now.
How's
And
MAGA?
Joe,
MAGA is at a 184.
I mean, look, you got to place your hope in the voters down in Pennsylvania. Certainly,
I don't
that
know,
race,
dude. Jeez, I thought it
shaping
was
up
gonna be
to
more than
be
that,
a tight
184
one.
million.
But if you're President Trump, I think you're
I thought it was gonna
cautiously
be-
optimistic.
I thought it was gonna be
Same
like
thing
500
with
million by
Wisconsin.
now.
And so you're checking the
Fucking
box.
hell.
The Southern Wall has held. North Carolina in
17
President
million
Trump's
in dark
pocket.
MAGA. Yeah, that's
Georgia
all right.
appears to be trending the same way. And so if you're Kamala Harris, your pathway to victory has become much slimmer. And so you look at Virginia. If by some way President Trump is able to win that race, again, it has not been called, but it is quite close, closer than we've seen in a very long time. That tightrope becomes an unwalkable path. And I think President Trump is feeling pretty good right now.
All right, Joe, we're just going to jump in here real quick and call Georgia for President Trump, something we've been looking at for
They
quite a
called
bit,
Georgia
trending in that
for
direction, but
President
now we can
Trump.
officially make the projection that Georgia will be in the
Say
win column for
what?
Donald Trump, and obviously this is a pickup from
Say
2020.
what?
Georgia going to Joe Biden and Democrats in 2020.
Say
now in
what?
2024, it is in the win column for Donald Trump. So a huge victory there. And this is also backing up the information that we had going into tonight that these Sunbelt states would hold for Donald Trump. So you got Georgia and North Carolina both in the victory column for Donald Trump. I'm sorry, Joe, had to cut you off there. Just wanted to get that on the air.
But I think it points to that specific point, that if you're Kamala Harris now, it's not a matter of if. The blue wall has to hold. Otherwise, she has a path to victory that has not been walked by any of her predecessors in the modern history of the presidency. And so, yes, we turn our eyes now to places like Arizona, where things look good for President Trump, places like Nevada, where Republicans have felt a little bit like Charlie Brown with Lucy in the football. We think we're close, and then next thing you know, you're staring at the sky. And so, look, this election is far from over. But I think if you're somewhere sitting at Trump headquarters and somewhere sitting at Kamala Harris headquarters, you'd rather be at Trump HQ than Harris HQ right now.
Yeah, sure.
Joe, right now on the front page of Newsmax.com, we have an article, and it is low black turnout threatens Harris in key swing states. So obviously some of these suburbs of Atlanta may not have been performing. That's why we are calling the race in Georgia for Donald Trump. Fulton, DeKalb, the most registered black voters. But according to some exit polls that are in, is that when they're talking to folks, there's an overall decrease in black voter participation. But there's also been polls that show Donald Trump has really come up strong with black voters. And even Obama coming out and kind of lecturing them was a backfire. What do you make of some of these exit polls that are saying, you know, this is going to be a problem for Harris? Maybe this is why we're seeing Georgia now, Donald Trump taking that state with the all-important 16 electoral votes.
Black men are sick and tired of being sick and tired. The Democrats, I've often said, they treat us a little bit like the orphan Annie. It's always tomorrow. The promise of America is always a day away when you place your trust in the hands of the Democratic Party. And so you go all the way back to 1964, the mass exodus of black voters from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party complete. I do believe you're starting to see that pendulum swing back, that after decades of empty promises, empty rhetoric, government programs that cost a whole lot of money but didn't yield a whole lot of results, program rich and results poor, you see some people willing to take a chance on what Republicans are offering, and you see others saying, I am not going to participate. They vote by staying home.
You know, she did do a lot of podcasts with Shannon Sharpe, Charlemagne the God. You know, obviously Biden had that famous exchange, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So she was speaking to black voters for whatever reason. You know, time will tell here of why the message didn't resonate. A lot of what you just said, though, coming back to the economy, coming back to these empty promises. But that could also be for white men as well. There's a lot of empty promises and a lot of college students who said, college, forgive me on debt. They thought they were going to.
Oh, guys, if anybody's out there,
you know,
anybody watching that, I'm getting tired.
We're watching this very now significant events for the state of Georgia going for Donald Trump.
I see another pump. I can see Bitcoin get to 74.5. I'll be energized. Oh, okay, this is pretty good. I got 11.7 on Kaspa. That means it's inching up to 12 cents. So that is pretty good. Pump it up. Got to pump it up.
Authenticity these days. They've seen all the tricks. They've lived through these same campaign promises for decades.
11.7 on Kaspa.
I think you look at what's happened here. Kamala Harris had all the union leadership support, but she did not have the rank and file support. She had all of the gatekeepers for the black community supporting her, but she did not necessarily have the same buy-in from the black community that Democrats have been able to take for granted for the better part of the last 40 years. And so I think, to Bianca's point, when you look at the fact that all across this country, 70 to 80% of black children not reading at proficient levels, not able to do math at proficient levels, communities that are not safe, migrants who have been here
Look at all that red.
3 months, getting better treatment than
Trump.
here, living in America for the better part of the last century. This is not sustainable. And I think black people, particularly black men in these swing states, finally saying, count me out.
Joe Pinion, always great to have you with us. Thank you so much for your comments and reaction as we are calling some big races here tonight.
You got Florida, Ohio, and Texas
right now here on M2.
All right, we'll be right back after this.
So that's Florida, Ohio, Texas, and they just said he's getting Georgia. So it's like these. Yeah, I don't know. If I get tired and I go to sleep, I probably rest. I can rest soundly. Knowing that my crypto is going to be safe.
7 points better than Joe Biden did in 2020. He won that group, white college voters with a degree by only 3 points. Now let's look at the other group, which is the one that Donald Trump does well in, and that's white voters without a college degree. Now you see
189 million market cap. Come on, dude. Just get it up to 200 million already. Jesus Christ. Just do it. Just do it. My God.
That's a little bit less than he did in 2020 when he beat Joe Biden with that same group by 35 points. So this is we see the shift happening. Kamala Harris overperforming with white college voters. Donald Trump doing essentially as he did in 2024, although a little bit worse. Why, of course, this matters is in the key battleground states. White non-college voters are a big part of Wisconsin and Michigan. In those states, the picture is a little bit more mixed. Now, I'm not going to have exit poll slides for you or graphics, but just to give you a sense of the picture. In Pennsylvania, the picture we just described, where Kamala Harris is doing well with white college voters, she's doing 19 points better than Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. Biden beat him only by 9. Trump is beating her by 29 points with voters without a college degree who are white, beating her by 29 points, but he beat Biden by 32. So the Pennsylvania story matches that national story. But in Wisconsin, and I'll just wind it down here, Wisconsin and Michigan, it's much tighter. White college vote for Harris is about what it was for Biden. White non-college, Trump is doing a little bit better in Wisconsin than he did in 2020.
Look at this chart, man.
Harris is doing a little bit
Holy
better
crap.
for white college voters, but in white non-college, Trump is up by 3. So in those 2 key states, the picture's a little bit more mixed than at the national level. Nora, back to you wherever you may be.
I know, John. Well, I decided to stay over here with Major Garrett.
Sure. Well, who can blame you?
No offense to any of you, but of course, I'm geeking out over here at the board, and I wanted to know about Michigan and Wisconsin because we haven't yet got to dive into those numbers. So, Major, take it away.
So, again, Michigan, 23%
Bro,
of the vote.
right here.
We have a current lead for the vice president. Where's the outstanding vote? Well, okay. As we mentioned earlier, as Anthony went through this, Wayne County, Washtenaw, that's Ann Arbor, Oakland. Very large concentration of outstanding vote there. What is the overall needs for President Trump to prevail in Michigan? What is our current projection? 46%. Again, these are projections based on the vote that's come in so far, our estimation of what the overall turnout will be, and overlaying that with exit poll data. So that's what we can basically say about Michigan at this hour.
Okay, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Let's go there now. We have 52% of the vote in. Where is that vote that we still need to see come in? Where is it concentrated? Milwaukee and Madison. Those are good, strong areas for the vice president. What is the general orientation? Vice President Harris, according to our estimates, needs 50% of the outstanding vote. We saw just a moment ago where it's concentrated, Madison and Milwaukee and the surrounding suburbs. According to our estimates, she's going to get 43% of that outstanding vote. That could be problematic in Wisconsin for some of the reasons that John mentioned on some of the exit poll data in that state, showing a difference of the coalitions and the assemblage therein.
So she may be in trouble in Wisconsin.
She may be in trouble in Wisconsin, exactly, based on our current estimates, yes.
And what about Door County?
Door County, let's bring that out. Door.
Interesting.
76% in.
So sometimes Door County has, well, I think Door County has always predicted the potential.
Door County has a near perfect record, and she is running slightly behind Joe Biden. Trump is currently in the lead there. We have it a light shade of red, leaning Trump.
Really interesting. All right. Thank you, Major, for indulging me. Now to Maurice Dubois at our Path to Victory table. And Maurice, I know we're all looking about the importance of Pennsylvania.
We sure are, Nora. Thank you so much. Let's first take you through where we stand right now. We are at 201 for Donald Trump, 91 for Kamala Harris. But if we look at the beginning of the night, this is where we expected and will expect the votes to go throughout the evening. Red states for Trump, blue states for Kamala Harris. She started with 226. He started with 219, and what we believe to be likely based on past experience and past voting. Okay, so let's see what Pennsylvania, how it shakes out when it comes to being pivotal for Donald Trump. If he were to flip Georgia and get the 16 votes there, electoral votes, and take North Carolina and to hold on to that, and then go to Pennsylvania and take the 19 electoral votes there. We talked about this earlier, but that would bring him straight to 270, lights out. He's the next president of the United States. If he cannot hold on to Pennsylvania, he then has to go through the southern strategy, the Sun Belt, if you will. So that would mean flipping Georgia, holding on to North Carolina, taking Arizona, taking Nevada as well. He's still not there. He's at 268, so he would have to take one of the upper Midwest, right? If he doesn't get Pennsylvania, he'd have to take Wisconsin or Michigan, and he gets right there to 278. Now, for Harris, Pennsylvania is huge. It's big. So if she were to take Pennsylvania and hold on to...
Your future is at your fingertips. Take advantage of the flexibility and diversity.
To 270. So Pennsylvania, pivotal as it has been for so many elections in the past. But again, we're at nail-biter status, 7 battleground states. We just don't know. This is where we stand right now. Nora.
Maurice Dubois, thank you so much. And when we come back, we'll have new results to report. CBS News America Decides.
11-8-1. Come on, let's go. Kaspa. Let's go. 11-8-1.
CBS News election.
All right, let's move. Let's see what they got going on here.
On these types of policies.
I completely agree with you. In fact, for an incumbent presidential party, the White House, traditionally that number has to be closer to 42%, only 30% saying the country's on the right track. Tells you a lot, and I think that's why you haven't had, and maybe soon in the blue we're going to see this, but you've not had that suburban turnout that many in the
MAGA. 194. You getting up there? Yeah, 194 million market cap. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Independents are telling you, regardless of party, the two issues they care most about right now are inflation, the rising cost of everything, and border security. And that is why Donald Trump right now is cooking in the Sun Belt and obviously about to crack the blue wall.
John, you had a piece on Newsmax.com way back talking about Donald Trump having this historic opportunity, I think it was, to secure the black vote. It looks like that's exactly what he is doing tonight.
Yeah, Bianca, I wrote a piece after doing an extensive poll. This is before it was fashionable, of black voters. And we had some startling findings. That 23% of black voters were open to President Trump. The overwhelming majority wanted the police funded, that didn't approve of transgender stuff, that didn't approve of the leftist, the white university faculty room leftist views that have become dominant in the Democrat Party since 2020. Since 1964, Democrats black people largely voted with Democrats because of the Civil Rights Act signed by Lyndon Johnson. But that has started to crack when they started to look and realize that they hadn't been served by these policies, by the professional Democrat class. And they started to challenge it and look around, and they found a champion, or many did, in President Trump. And this is not just a once-in-a-lifetime, a snapshot. You're looking at real political power being seized by black people now, and they're going to make both parties compete for their vote. And this could be part of a broader realignment in upcoming elections.
A lot of promises made on that front, Ford, and yeah, again, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but there are going to be promises, made, promises kept. We'll see on that front. The other thing too, I want to talk to you both about is the foreign policy aspect. We've talked about immigration, we've talked about inflation, but something that stands out, I think, a lot of Americans' minds is where we stand as a country on foreign policy. The war in Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East, the fact that China is on the march and promising to invade Taiwan. How much of a factor do you think that is playing with our posture in the world for looking so weak over the last 4 years?
Oh, it's playing a huge role. I just don't think that many in the mainstream media have caught on to what a big role it's playing. And you see this when you go to Pennsylvania.
11-9. My God,
dude. The
dude.
Democratic Senate incumbents in those states are talking about tariffs, China, and Donald Trump. So therefore, when you recognize that, you see real quick in the blue wall, they realize that this cannot stand with China. Obviously, I think China's playing in trade is playing a much bigger role than, say, Israel and Ukraine is. But again, Americans don't want to see money sent overseas when people are drowning in North Carolina, when people are being hurt by spills in Ohio. It's about putting Americans first and understanding put American jobs first.
Obviously, Michigan, the Arab vote, too, plays into what we're seeing in the Middle East, John, and I know you're also a Russia expert, and we've seen sort of Russia get much stronger when it comes to putting, forces in, alignment with North Korea in Ukraine.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, in the 80s and 90s, when we were all growing up, the Republicans were the hawks and the party of war, supposedly, was so the left made us out to be. And now this is playing a very subtle psychological, cultural part role in this realignment. In that now the party of Donald Trump is the party of peace. And they are the party of war. And that's kind of set the table for many young people, and I think we're going to see this in a lot of the postmortems, that this was a big deal, that being the party of peace kind of made you, kind of smoothed out President Trump's rougher edges and was contributory to creating a permission structure to kind of vote for Trump, or at least...
What was Mark Dye's latest video today? Are you ready? Is that urgent? Let's just give this a watch. Why the hell not?
Conservatives and Christians have been far too timid for far too long. I guess that's putting it politely. They've been cowards, and we were sold out by our leaders and representatives in Congress and in the churches, and kept pacified by political pundits and mainstream conservative Inc. talk show hosts who think that joking about people's pronouns and laughing at blue-haired teachers
I'm
on
just
TikTok
going to buy
is all that it's going to take to win the
another
culture war, take this country
$1,000 of
back.
Kaspa
But I think it's time to start giving the left a taste
on
of some of their own medicine and playing by some
uphold
of
itself
their
rather
rules.
than
And it's time to
trying
get
to
off social
transfer
media and bring our
USDT
message into
from
the
uphold
real world.
to XTL.
Boycotting companies that are woke isn't enough.
Because why
While
the
they
hell
cost them
not? I
some
mean,
loss
look
of
at
revenue,
this,
many won't even
dude.
notice or care. I think we should start
Look at
telling
this.
the stores.
I'm like,
I've
I've been trying to buy it all day at 10 cents. I've made successful buys, and now it's just
the employees feel uncomfortable, even miserable. Hear me out. If the clerks can't get through a shift without being
And now I
told
can't
off
buy
by a
Uphold. I
dozen
can't
customers
send
every single day
USDT from
or
Uphold
every hour,
to
they're going to
Bank.
complain to their managers, and the managers
And
are
XT,
going to report
because
to the corporate
Uphold
office
says I
that
need to
selling
cool
woke
it
products
down.
or promoting
For
anti-white
60 hours I gotta cool
initiatives or
down. What
pushing
the hell is
LGBTQ
wrong with
propaganda
them?
is causing a hostile environment
Holy
in the
crap,
stores
man.
by customers.
Holy
Many employees
guacamole.
probably actually agree with us, but out of fear of losing their jobs, won't say anything themselves. So it's our job
So-
as the customers, because the customer is always right. You're thinking, well, it's not their fault. Why take it out on them? But that kind of thinking is what allows these corporations to continue getting more woke
right.
every year.
You
Well, it's not some random
forced me to
clerk's
do it.
fault what the corporation itself is doing.
I'm
They
gonna
are
pay
a vessel that can
$1,000
relay customers' dissatisfaction
Kaspa
to those
and
higher up the
pay
food
high
chain.
fees.
And they are the public
Excessive
face of the
fees.
business and what it
Because you're
represents.
doing the face.
Why should you stay silent and afraid to voice your complaints to a store employee? It's certainly going to be more effective than posting about it on Facebook. That's like shouting at a brick wall. It needs to
see
be
what
done
happens
in
tomorrow.
person, face to face. But we should also fill their Yelp and Google listings with negative reviews. Better yet, pick up the phone and start calling local branches and sound off. And do it every time any company crosses the line. They need to be sent a loud and sustained message. Same with the schools and our local state governments. Look up your congressman and senator's office phone numbers and those of your mayor and city council members and save them in your contacts in your phone like you would anyone else you frequently call. They can and usually do ignore tweets, Facebook comments, and emails. But if their office phone is ringing off the hook all day, every week, every time their aides and interns pick them up, they get an earful from upset constituents, they're not going to be able to just go about their day as usual. The congressman, the mayor, the school, or whoever will get the message. And as the cliche goes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's usually a small but vocal and active group that causes large societal changes because most people sit on the sidelines and say or do nothing. Run for city council, mayor, and get on your local school board. Trying to fix the government from using a top-down approach will have a limited effect because of how gigantic the bureaucracy is and the number of obstacles that need to be overcome to achieve major changes. As president, Donald Trump tried, and while he had some major victories, like gaining a conservative majority in the Supreme Court and cutting a bunch of unnecessary regulations and using tariffs to help American workers so they weren't always getting screwed over by cheap foreign imports, he could only shift our nation's course a few degrees. a bottom-up approach is better in many regards because it can be done by ordinary people with limited resources. And being involved in local politics usually isn't as competitive as national offices because the field is less crowded. Taking control of our communities is not as difficult as people think. Just a small handful of active people can take over city councils and school boards. And most people only think about voting on election years for major positions like president, but local positions and midterm elections are just as important. During COVID lockdowns, for example, in 2020 and 2021, many sheriffs who are elected by voters refused to enforce state laws dictated by governors through executive orders, which mandated that restaurants not allow in-person dining. And even some sheriffs in major California cities refused to enforce the governor's rules. They allowed the businesses to stay open, and there was nothing that the governor could do to stop them. And be sure to look up your recommended voter guide for your city, which is put together by many local Republican parties, and use it as a guide to choose candidates you're not familiar with for various positions that don't have their party affiliation listed next to their name on the ballot. Many positions, like school board members, judges, and sheriffs, do not list whether a candidate is a Republican or a Democrat. So take advantage of the research and the voter guide your local Republican Party puts together. A quick Google search should bring it up. A word of caution about becoming politically active, though. Some people may want to start an organization or a group to fight for a cause, but there are enormous dangers to such an approach that you should be aware of before you even consider it. First of all, if a member of a group does something stupid, then the entire organization gets blamed. Not just blamed online or in the media, but it can be held liable legally. If you or your organization holds an event or promotes a protest and someone gets hurt, if violence breaks out, no matter which side started it or caused it, you may be held personally liable, either civilly or even criminally. Democrats have very well-funded law firms that they use to financially cripple their opponents. And even if you win a case brought against you, the legal bills are enough to bankrupt most people just defending against them. It may be better to become part of already well-established groups and then influence their members and then ultimately their leadership to move them further to the right and basically take them over. Being part of a movement can often be better than being part of an actual organization. One can be a supporter, a leader, or an influencer in a movement while remaining completely independent, but this still puts you at risk for civil and criminal penalties if you're blamed for inciting violence by using political rhetoric that's too heated, or even standard political analogies these days talking about fighting or war. They'll get your private text messages, DMs, and emails. They'll use them as evidence against you, just like they did the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. And figures of speech and jokes will be framed as if you were being literal. And I know it sounds cliche, but be careful what you post on social media. It's probably better to create an anonymous account if you're using Twitter or X. Don't use your real name. Don't use your photo. Use a burner email address, not your usual one, in case the accounts get hacked and the login information gets published for our opponents to sift through, which does happen, allowing them to find other accounts on other platforms that use the same email address, leading them to find people's real identities. You should resist the urge to become a famous online personality. Many online accounts that have gained hundreds of thousands of followers or even over 1 million still keep their identity of those who run them completely unknown. Be careful not to cut your nose off to spite your face. Going on a rant, using the N-word to prove that you don't care what the thought police say isn't worth getting fired from your job over or getting banned from social media. Future potential employers will Google your name during the hiring process. And even if your rant doesn't make headlines, if you're named in tweets, on Facebook posts, and other social media platforms, those are going to come up during the vetting process. Even if you use a pseudonym for your social media presence, if you show your face, there is an extremely high probability that your actual identity will be found. There's facial recognition software that can find photos of you that others posted online from your family and friends accounts. Online sleuths can be ruthless and crafty in their quest to dox people, and someone who personally knows you may take it upon themselves to alert others who you are, like a former classmate, coworker, or your ex-girlfriend or wife. But it doesn't even have to be something you post online. These days, if someone goes off on a racist or anti-Semitic rant in public that's caught on video, that video often goes viral and ultimately the person is identified, doxxed, and fired in hopes of appeasing the online angry mob who call and harass people's employers when they're the subject of a viral controversy. So even if you're not posting on social media at all, social media can still ruin your career from something that you say in real life. It's a brave new world, so pick your battles wisely. Some are in better positions to fight on certain fronts than others. If you're
All right,
a
finally
retired
did
veteran
it.
with a
MAGA Trump coin
guaranteed
passed the
pension
200 million
and you have
market
nothing
cap.
to lose, that's different than an aspiring young college kid who could face a lifetime of limited
Finally.
career options if they happen to get the attention of the wrong people by pushing the envelope on certain controversial issues a little bit too far. With formidable foes dedicated to shutting down anyone speaking out too loudly about certain topics, people need to be careful before they end up with a target on their back. Each individual must carefully decide their own level of involvement. And this shouldn't need to be said, but no matter how frustrated you get, no matter how angry and disgusted you feel because of the onslaught of attacks against conservatives, our culture, religious traditions, our country by the enemies within, don't do anything violent. We've all seen how occasionally disgruntled and mentally disturbed people on the left and on the right lash out in violence against their perceived enemies, and it always hurts whatever cause they thought they were fighting for. It gains widespread sympathy for the victims and casts whatever cause the perpetrator thought they were fighting for in an extremely negative and toxic light. So when I talk about the war on conservatives, as far as our side is concerned, it's a political and metaphoric war. It's an information war. It's a battle of ideas. So don't be stupid like some misguided, self-proclaimed patriots in the past who have lashed out in violence, or those who think that wearing camo, training with a dozen others out in the woods to overthrow the government is going to do anything but cause disastrous consequences. Even in situations that could be deemed self-defense, one wrong decision in a split second could cost you your freedom. Some people shoot armed robbers after they turn around and head for the door and are charged with second-degree manslaughter because technically the threat to their life was over because the perpetrator was leaving. Violence is always ugly and should be avoided at all costs. And don't try arguing or reasoning with Marxists in the streets. They have a mob mentality because they are a mob. I've seen too many clips of patriots arguing with idiots in the streets. Things are going to get very tense over the next few weeks and months, no matter who's declared the winner of the election, especially if Donald Trump wins, because the left will stop at nothing to stop him from re-entering the White House. So we all have to remain calm and think very clearly and carefully about how we're going to deal with this thing, no matter how it turns out, because we're not in Kansas anymore. And we're going to find out real soon whether or not we're in the United States anymore. I'm Mark Dice. Subscribe to my channel if you're new here and check back on a regular basis. And stay tuned.
All right, let's get back to the election.
Not be an ardent leftist.
What's going on here?
Educated elitists, the ones that look down their nose at working class people. Now we are the working class party, and I'm thrilled about it. We're no longer a party that's just white people. We're seeing great numbers of Latinos. We're seeing great numbers of African Americans who are voting for Donald Trump. What does that say?
Come on, let's get up to 7.5.
Color we are. They want
We
us to
got it to
be Americans.
7.5.
That's a beautiful
Oh, look at that.
It's a positive message.
Yeah.
It's one also, I think, with a lot of hope. And
All right.
you know, when we look at sort of where we're going as a country, and people say we're on the wrong track.
So,
where is the American dream, and who can help best let us build it and build prosperous futures for our children as well? And I loved seeing your daughter out there front and center after Mark Cuban talked about Donald Trump not being behind strong, intelligent women, because there she was, and so many others.
man, this thing is just increasing. Look at that.
By some of these surrogates.
Look at that.
Also,
Look
our
at
sitting
that.
President Joe Biden calling Trump supporters garbage. But these past few days and weeks, that contempt really, I think, has energized people to come out to the polls as well today, Governor.
Bianca, no doubt about it. And having been a candidate many times, I can tell you that when things are said about the candidate, it's not that big a deal. We expect it. We put our names on the ballot. We know it's coming. But when you go after the supporters of the candidate, and then you call them names that are just
Oh my God.
outrageous, racist, misogynist, threat to democracy, garbage, deplorable.
Deplorables.
What you're doing there is
garbage.
Saying, you're just not as valuable
misogynist.
as I am. And that's what
threat
has happened. And I think
democracy.
that's why you're seeing people rise up and say, I thought America was a place where we were all equal. And so if we're not as equal as you, maybe you've got the problem. The rest of us don't. That's what I think, to me, is the beautiful thing of what's going on tonight. And I'm loving this because we needed for a long time kind of a little bit of a shaking in America to say, let's get back to who we are. Where nobody cares what color you are, how much money you have or don't
MAGA
have.
Trump coin is still going up, 207, 207 million market cap.
All of us get to live in this great country and speak our minds.
Dark MAGA is
Free
relatively
speech
the
is
same.
for everybody. Freedom of movement, dreaming big and making those dreams come true. That's the country I believe Donald Trump wants to lead us to be.
And Governor Huckabee, one more thought, too, about what you were saying about how this the whole Republican Party has been reshaped. You think back to the 2012 presidential campaign. Basically, these same attacks were leveled at Mitt Romney about his failure to include women, and he had that kind of infamous comment, I have binders full of women. Didn't play very well.
I remember that.
The difference now with the Republican Party
Binders
is Donald
full of
Trump
women.
can point to literally dozens of women who have held critically important, including cabinet-level positions in his administration, and very important positions like your daughter had. And all those women,
ambassador.
Those women stepped up, and I mean, there were Instagram videos before you could even think about it. So, and also some news we can share with you too, Governor. Bernie Moreno has now been declared the winner in the Ohio Senate race, so that's another seat flipped. And as we were talking before, the potential presidency of Donald Trump with the Senate there. You think about Supreme Court nominations too. There's some talk of some conservative justices wanting to retire. All that is now on the table if Republicans do retain control of the Senate and win the White House.
I'm a faithful person. I mean, I pray for this nation, but I have so much hope right now when we're seeing all this. And I know that you're a man of great faith as well, Governor. So, possibility for revival, possibility for peace.
We see the balance of power here up on the Senate. Just 2 more seats needed for Republicans to take control of the U.S. Senate.
It's incredible what we're seeing.
We're seeing some coattails perhaps for Donald Trump as well. Governor, always great to see you, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Have a great evening, and I think we are.
Thank you.
I think we are too. Positive momentum right now. And again, we're watching a lot of the states that still polls are still closing, still waiting for Pennsylvania, which has 19 electoral votes. Watching that closely. Let's bring in our next panel, Lydia Serrani, host of Saturday Agenda. And yes, host of CPAC Now, America Uncanceled, former White House Strategic Senior Advisor Mercedes Schlapp. Ladies, great to see you both. Give us some of your top line thoughts. Lydia, what are you tracking? What are you most hopeful for, and what we're seeing with these results coming in right now?
Well, what we're seeing with the exit polling, Mercedes, we were just talking about it before. In Georgia, Trump doing is much better with independent voters. We also saw him outperforming in Texas and in Florida compared to what he did in 2020. So you're seeing this trend with President Trump that he is outperforming than what he did back in 2020. And we know that the margin of error, it's right there. It's razor thin, the polls. But with Trump consistently doing just a little bit better each and every time in each and every county, it looks like a positive trend for Trump. What do you think, Mercedes?
Well, you got to be watching the Hispanic vote. That is really where
I'm going to take off my contact
Party
lenses
and the
and
Trump
glasses and stuff
campaign
like that. I am
has
getting
made
tired.
enormous inroads. Kamala Harris, she is underperforming by
I
about
want to see
20
this go to
points
12,
among
to
Hispanics.
12 cents.
We've also seen in
before I
Wisconsin
go
that
to
the
sleep.
black
And I want to
vote,
see
Trump has been
Bitcoin.
able to double the support of the black vote
This
in
is
his
going back
favor.
down right now. It's 73. I want to go to
This is like,
75,000
as
before I go to
Mike
sleep.
Huckabee explained, it's the
Dark
realignment
MAGA.
of the Republican Party. It's the working man and woman. It's the Hispanics,
Dark
the
MAGA,
blacks.
well, MAGA
It's
Trump coin, I have
fascinating to
no
watch
idea.
what
I
is
thought it was going to be like a
happening in
500
this
million
race.
market
And I
cap
did
by
get
now.
a tip
And
from
it's,
one
was
of
it
our
198, just went up to
CPAC
207,
leads in
but no.
Pennsylvania who said that one of his very pessimistic political advisors in Pennsylvania said
Everything is
Trump's
like
going to win Pennsylvania.
dropping by
So
a
this is a really,
few
really fascinating
pips.
race where Donald Trump
because of, I think, his focus on the economy, what his vision
Kamala
has
catching
been
up? Is that what it
for
is?
these common sense policies when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the border, when it comes to dealing with national security
She's
issues.
got more popular
That's
votes.
what's resonating. That is what's winning.
Oh, this is Michigan.
Not
Okay.
the Kamala threat to democracy and everything has to deal with abortion. Obviously,
Yeah, it's
her message fell flat, and the voters are coming out strong for Donald Trump.
Yeah, and you know, for them to, in Pennsylvania, your insider to say that, you know, probably choking on it. And then, you know, New York Times, the Needle, we're also watching that, saying this. So
Right.
The Needle. But I don't think the media and the liberal media was prepared for any of this. So Donald Trump has this great ability to connect with real Americans. And that is sort of what we're talking about. Real Americans who are hurting. Kamala Harris had every opportunity. She could have gone on Joe Rogan. She could have, you know, done a lot of things differently. Her media strategy was to hide. Her media strategy was to do these softballs, Lydia. And they continued to even re-edit her answers.
She
like
sucks.
60
That's
minutes.
it.
She had every opportunity. She
It's
also
just
had
the way
a
it
ton of
is.
fundraising behind her.
I know, billions of dollars. The other night I was leaving here, the Newsmax studios, and the only time I watch MSNBC is because we have it, all the monitors. And I see at the bottom there of MSNBC, it says political experts say that Trump will execute his opponents. And I just couldn't believe it. We saw with Anderson Cooper and Charlamagne the God, you know, the radio host. He
President Trump's going to
said,
execute his
if Trump
opponents.
gets elected, he's going to put people in concentration camps. He's going to tear up the Constitution. We're never going to have another election again. And then Anderson Cooper, who admitted that he's overpaid, right? He didn't even push back. And that's what we're supposed to. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we are supposed to
Anderson
do as news
Cooper
anchors.
at the
You have to
Clown
push
News
back if
Network.
Someone is saying outright lies.
Well, one of the things also to be looking at is President Trump has a very good chance of winning the popular vote that we have not seen in quite some time with any Republican. That's very, very significant as well. So, you know, again, I think that for the Trump campaign, they're feeling, talk about joyful, they're feeling joyful tonight. I think that the Kamala Harris campaign, and what I'd love to see now, Lydia, is maybe we should turn on MSNBC because the meltdown that they're about to have, I mean,
I don't know which worse, CNN or MSNBC. I think MSNBC.
I would just encourage you ladies to take a moment and check out.
At least
Joy
CNN are a
Reid's
bunch of
epic
clowns that are
meltdown
kind of
about the
funny.
state of Georgia.
MSNBC, I have no
She's,
idea. They're
probably
freaking
not welcome in the
delusional
state of
sometimes.
Florida anymore, but she'll probably come anyway because they always do. All right, ladies, we got to wrap it up there. Great to see you both, Lydia and Mercedes. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
See, they put match lap in the prompter there, but that's obviously
You
Mercedes.
got to be on your toes.
A lot of
Just
times
have
they are
more
together.
coffee, right?
Yeah, that's
exactly,
right.
exactly. Hey, we're so glad you're watching it right here with us. History being made, and to have you covered. We're going to take a quick break. As we hit the break, though, look at the crowds. This is the watch party for Donald Trump in West Palm Beach. Will it be a victory party?
All right. Come on, victory party. We're going to make billions and billions of dollars.
Attention
So it's going
families
back
with
up
a loved
again. That's
one
pretty
in a
cool. Let's see how.
Information at your fingertips.
Let's see how CBS live stream.
have to be asked and need to be answered. Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
There he
Into
goes.
the Republican vote in the suburbs. They're still
CBS.
optimistic, from Pelosi to others, that she can do it, but they see a narrowing path, but a still viable path. But there's a lot of Democrats, to be clear, on edge right now.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we can see with the data and our reporting, but it's strategists with close contacts that know
What
about
is
the
this?
ground
USA
game,
Today
like
has
CBS
it
News
at
political contributor
179 versus
Joel
214.
Payne and political contributor Leslie Sanchez
so-
want to bring you into that conversation. Joel, what are you hearing within Democratic Party ranks at this hour?
I'm hearing similar to the reporting that was just shared. Look, that path to 270 is narrow. I thought it was narrow coming in to the evening. I've said that Harris was a low ceiling, high floor candidate coming into this race. I think that holds true. I think Jen O'Malley Dillon's memo is correct that it seems like the blue wall is the path. And I will say this, I think Democrats are kind of coming to grips with a stubborn reality that some of the bets that were made in this cycle may just not pay off. That doesn't mean Kamala Harris will lose, But it does mean that some of
better
the bets may
lose.
be around abortion, and some of the bets around Donald Trump maybe receding in public regard just did not come to fruition. There is still a path despite all that. And I remember in 2020, many Democrats around this time of night felt maybe similar to looking at the map right now, the same way that they felt 4 years ago, the same way they feel now. And that race was able to be pulled through. But I think Ed's point is right. I think there are narrow paths to victory, and I think Democrats are bearing down for what could be an extended process here when you get past those blue wall states, looking at Nevada, seeing what happens with those votes. The ballot curing, I think, will be a really key issue.
I don't know, dude. I don't know if I can stay awake.
That Reid machine in Nevada that many Democrats rely upon to deliver key votes in that culinary workers
At
union.
this time, I'm
Those
either
will be the
getting
places
ready
where
for
Democrats
bed
will
or I'm
look
in bed
if they
or
plan on
something like that. I
delivering
don't
an
know.
electoral college victory here.
Yeah, I mean, as I look at the map and the path to victory,
We'll
if
see.
she cannot win Wisconsin, in other words, if there's a piercing of that blue wall, she would have to win Arizona.
Right.
And so that's really what it would come down to at this point. Nevada's still too small at 6 EVs. She'd need Arizona, and I have to go back to the
Why can't
to
you
the
just
magic
turn
wall
to
or the data desk
75,000
and figure out
or at
what's
least this one
happening in
to
Arizona,
12
because I don't have a good
cents before I
sense
go to
yet
sleep.
about what's happening in
Come
Arizona.
on.
Major, would you?
Fog
Major
is,
and
yeah,
Anthony, we'll go
nice
to them in just a
all-time
second. But
high
let me
with
touch base with
fog.
CBS News political analyst Leslie Sanchez,
You can
because
turn to
she is
45
with
cents,
us. And
I'd be
Leslie,
happy.
I know you've been with us for most of this
Wow.
conversation. We heard.
If you got
Would you
MAGA Trump clone,
buy an ice cream in
triple
one
this
place
right already?
and
Jesus Christ.
the cone in another? So, why buy?
Stronger support leaning toward Trump along those border counties than he did, performing better than he did in 2020. And I expect that to move into the Sun Belt, into Nevada, where you have the culinary unions, into Arizona, where you have a lot of working class, middle class Latino voters. I expect that to tip toward Trump as well because of this growing middle class. They are second, third generation Latino dominated. Ed O'Keefe talked about the growth of Latino men on the Republican side, and they are tilting over toward Trump. And because of the economy, because of high inflation, and some of them do talk about border security, but that economic inflation number and feeling that pinch is really what's driving that all the way across. You can even argue it in Florida along that I-4 corridor, the Puerto Rican vote. You saw them come eventually aligned under Trump. They were not affected by those, kind of those Madison Square Garden components. And I think expect that in the suburbs of Philadelphia. My reporting says they are coming out for Trump as well.
Leslie Sanchez, thank you. And we have a race alert at this hour. CBS News rates North Carolina as lean Republican. And so while the vote count is still coming in, our CBS News models indicate this race leans Republican for
That's right.
Donald Trump. Remember, this was the one of the 7 battlegrounds that he won 4 years ago and is performing well in the rural areas of North Carolina. You could argue
Let's
North
pump it
Carolina
up.
was a must-win for Donald Trump tonight, and we rate it as lean Republican at this hour while it is still early in the night. Let's go now to Major Garrett to explain why.
So lean Trump for North Carolina. How did that happen? We should remind ourselves 5 visits by the former president to North Carolina in the closing week of this campaign, underscoring its importance as the Trump team looked at the electoral map of the country. So here we have 86% of the vote in. This is the actual vote as it has been tabulated. Here is our estimate of where this will land when all the votes are counted. 51.7 for Trump, 48.3 for the vice president. Where's the outstanding vote? We still see some outstanding vote there. But again, the numbers keep getting smaller and smaller. Mecklenburg, yes, there's vote out there, but it's simply not manifesting itself in the way that the vice president needs if she's going to prevail in North Carolina. Our estimates suggest she needs 59% of that outstanding vote. And we project, when it's all said and done, and Nora, you join me over here, great to have you back at the wall, 48%. So that's a big gap. 59% she needs, 48% is our current estimate based on outstanding vote, historical patterns, and exit poll data.
So you heard Robert Costa's reporting that Jen O'Malley Dillon has now sent out a memo. She's the campaign manager for the Vice President Harris, and says they still believe that the blue wall is the ultimate way to win.
The blue
it's
ball.
close in Pennsylvania. It may take a couple days to get the vote there. Michigan, it looked fairly good last time we looked. Wisconsin did not look that great.
Look good, no. But we were talking, and I heard you in the other room, because you guys are on the other side of the wall, about Arizona. So let's go to Arizona.
Yes, because this was my thing. Because Wisconsin is 11 electoral votes. If she loses that, she has to win Arizona. So what is happening in Arizona?
So here we have 51% of the vote in. That's where the total is currently. This is our estimate. We have it at 50.3 to 49.7. How does that compare to 2020? We remember how close it was. That's overperformance of Joe Biden. Things presently look good in Arizona. And
for the Democrats.
For Kamala Harris. Here's where the outstanding vote is. Maricopa County, let's be specific. How much vote is still outstanding? Maricopa County, more than 1 million votes. Maricopa County in 2020 accounted for 61% of the statewide turnout. Let's go down to Tucson's Pima County. How much is outstanding? 273,000. So let's go back to that basic question. What does Kamala Harris need in Arizona to prevail? 50%. What do we have a current estimate of her projected ability to retain or achieve from the outstanding vote? 51%, on the razor's edge.
So Margaret Brennan and John Dickerson, we should look at, because Arizona is one of the 2 battleground states that has an abortion initiative or something to expand reproductive rights. So I'm curious how that affected the vote. And of course, oh, well, excuse me. I'm asking the wrong person. Major Garrett has it right here. Oh,
I have an answer for you, Nora.
Yeah.
So we see this, 63%. We also see Trump well ahead of Kari Lake running for the Senate. So there are, in Arizona, and this was a big question, would there be Trump-Ruben Gallego votes in Arizona? Actually, in fact, there were. But was there a transference on the question of abortion and linkage with Vice President Harris? This data indicates not nearly as much as the Democrats.
Well, I'm wondering if she's riding, if the vice president is riding the coattails of Gallego and the abortion initiative.
She very well might. She very well might. But not nearly as strong. There's not that connection that many people thought there might be.
All right, so let's go back to the path to victory on that front now that both Georgia and North Carolina are in the lean Republican column. Maurice Dubois and Ed O'Keefe are there. Gentlemen.
Okay, thank you so much. Once again, this is the current map, right? 211 to 145, with many votes still to be counted. But let's take you back to the likely expectation. Mostly red, Donald Trump; blue for Kamala Harris. And if those states we just mentioned go red, what does that do? That brings Donald Trump within 9 votes.
9. So all he needs is Arizona or Michigan or Pennsylvania eventually. It might take a few days in both of these. That same General Malley Dillon memo, by the way, says that we're not going to get final vote until about 3 to 5 a.m. local time in Wisconsin. So stick with us.
So then for Kamala Harris, what does that look like?
Okay, so she's at 226.
Got to take Pennsylvania.
Let's say she squeaks by there. Let's say she squeaks by in Michigan. Now she needs 10 more.
Arizona.
Let's make that red right now. See, this is the problem for her.
This is a major. All right.
Okay.
Nevada.
Turn it blue.
Turn it blue. Okay. She holds Nevada from last time.
But he wins.
He does win.
Okay. Now, I want to flip it.
It's Arizona.
Give her that one. She wins.
That shows you exactly.
This is why we're going to be here a few days potentially, because if we're going to get in all these tight margins, we're going to have to be waiting for every single last vote. That's the way it could conceivably happen.
If you haven't bitten your nails yet,
start biting.
They're going to be bitten. All right, that's where we stand. Those are the past, Nora.
Awesome, thank you so much. I'm just walking back over.
Yeah. I think
yeah, I know, Margaret, you heard me. I had a question for you about the abortion initiative, yeah.
I did hear you very well on Arizona. Abortion's already legal there, but this is amending their constitution. But I think that's so fascinating to see. Perhaps it's that split ticket, or as you said, it just didn't boost the vice president. I was just looking at my path to victory. There's some other very narrow ones, some pretty obscure options here, but we are left with a total of 5 paths for her at this point.
If the vice president were to lose Wisconsin and that blue wall was pierced, which was going to be her easiest way to victory.
All right, let's go back to Newsmax. It seems to be more entertaining.
Out at the vice president's residence pretty much all day.
Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. I do feel like there is this moment in our nation where there's permission to talk about God and Jesus again. We just heard the power prayer there, and I just wanted to share that as well.
Can I weigh in on this for a second? Because, you know, Governor Huckabee made that point also, that we were returning to American values, to true values, and I wonder how much Tim Walz hurt Kamala Harris. She had a terrible campaign, and she didn't answer questions, and she was awful in many ways. But Tim Walz, I think they thought maybe he checked the boxes that they needed. You know, a white guy who was in the military and he was a hunter, but they didn't know that he abandoned his troops. Maybe they didn't do their research. Maybe they didn't know he didn't know how to load a shotgun, and maybe they didn't pay enough attention to the fact that he made his state a sanctuary state for sex change operations for children. And these kinds of things, I think, really disturb most of America, but the Democrats thought that they had that in their back pocket, but they didn't. They underestimated the values of the rest of America. And now that Donald Trump might have the Senate and maybe the House, what a difference that could make in getting things done. They were sweeping his legs every chance they got when he was president in 2016. Now he might actually be able to
and an actual, you know, a real
his
professionally organized transition team that he has set up as well. That's going to make a huge difference when you think about all the disasters with Chris Christie leading the transition team last time and how that went awry. Our thanks to David Harris Jr. And Rick Leventhal as well.
Thank you both so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Let's bring in now Matt Schlapp, chairman of CPAC, and we can put those balance of power graphics back up there, because specifically with the Senate, when you look at Bernie Moreno, Republicans have now secured at least 50 seats in the United States Senate, and if Donald Trump does go on to win, J.D. Vance would be the tie-breaking vote in the U.S. Senate. Things are looking pretty strong, Matt. I know you were very optimistic, feeling good going into this evening. Give us your assessment on how you felt then compared to how you're feeling right now.
John, I'm a grizzled veteran. I don't know if I ever feel good, but that win with Bernie Moreno gets us to 51. So Chuck Schumer is officially out of a job. He has got more time, as I said earlier, to make those tofu patties on that fake grill. And look, I think there's a few more victories to come tonight in the Senate. My best counters were up a couple seats in the House, and I think if you're Donald Trump sitting down there in Mar-a-Lago, he hasn't really had any bad news yet. I mean, he's won all these states. They're close, but they've been trending close now for weeks. No disappointing news, but I want the W. I want to get this thing done. The downside is, and you both understand this, because of the ridiculous ways that these blue states are allowing different paths to vote, some of these paths take a long time to scrutinize. So like in the state of Arizona, we could be in a situation where we're taking days to look through a ton of mailed ballots to check signatures. Now, I want them to check the signatures, but why are we the only republic or democracy on the face of the globe that can't find out the winner election night? I'm not saying we won't know the winner tonight. I hope we will. But, you know, it's a little absurd that these blue states run elections this way.
Yeah, you know, we look at, like Donald Trump says, France, you know, same-day voting, they know that night.
France, Argentina, Italy, all these places can do it in one day.
Everyone, Japan, Korea, everyone, all these, we do CPACs in all these continents, and they all say, why the heck do you run your elections this way? I say, you know, you got to talk to Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, because, you know, and the other thing is that they can't seem to get their act together on.
Jeez, we're getting there. Look at that. 74-8.
They have, you know, my hat goes off to Ron DeSantis
Look at
and
that.
Rick Scott in Florida. They made Florida voting after 2000, you know, quick
still
and painless. Look what Indiana does. Look what Kentucky does. Most of these red states, you get the answers.
All right,
states,
so
they want to go on and on.
Hey, Matt, you just had CPAC in Mexico, which was fantastic because obviously whoever takes control of the White House, Mexico to the south, our border, such a huge issue. And I know that that
what's
was
going to happen
really
first? Is Kaspa going to get the 12 cents, or is Bitcoin going to get the 75,000?
As well.
Let's figure this one out.
And you know, we're going next, Bianca. We're going to have CPAC Argentina with this great new president, Javier Milei, who's shaking things up and putting in all these economic reforms to get rid of their terrible runaway inflation. So, you know, it's amazing, like this populist conservative movement, it's wanted all over the world. People are watching what's going on in America. I know that we're very divided, but most people looking at America are saying, boy, those Trump years, how do we get that to work down here in my country?
Yeah. A lot of people pining for those good times, and they might be right around the corner.
Well, prosperity and freedom are things that people somehow enjoy and really want back desperately
And
these
maybe
days.
took for granted once upon a time.
And,
All right, Matt.
And woke socialism, not so much.
Yeah, not welcome, apparently, anymore. Matt Schlapp, great to see you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
All right, our next guest is the president of the National Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judd. Brandon, great to see you as well.
It's good to be with you, and I'm sorry, I'm the former president of the National Border Patrol Council.
Fair enough. We correct, I stand corrected, former president of the National Border Patrol Council. So, Brandon, give us your assessment on how you think the race is shaking out today.
Well, it's obviously going in his favor. It's going to go in his favor. And I think it's like what Matt just said. The United States, the citizens of the United States, they just don't want all this woke liberal stuff. And when you look at the border, this was an issue that he ran on it successfully in 2016. The Democrats didn't learn. And so now he's running on it again. And this is an issue that resonates throughout the entire United States. In every single state in the country, this is an issue that is very important to the American people. They know that the safety and security of their children depends upon border security.
1192.
We're going to continue to have
Come on.
hundreds of
This
thousands
gets
of
its
people
whole
dying
sense. I'm
of
just going to go to
fentanyl
sleep.
poison. We're
And I'm
going
going
to
to
continue
sleep
to
happy.
have murders by people that shouldn't be here in the country. We're going to continue to have
Come on,
rapes.
let's
We're going to
go.
continue to have
Let's go.
larceny. All of these crimes that are committed by people that come
Just
to this country
do it,
illegally,
do it.
this is something that the American people is rejecting. Border security is extremely important. Donald Trump puts that at the forefront, and he's going to get it under control once he gets back in the White House again.
Yeah, it's an issue that did not have to be this out of control, right? Day one, what they did was dismantle. You know, I've seen you out in the field. I've seen you with Donald Trump. Obviously, the state of Arizona is still, we have the numbers up right now. Immigration's a big deal for them. They're right on the border, Brandon, but I'm not so sure everyone there gets it if they're transplants from California or what's going on.
Bro, I'm getting crazy
because
tired.
there is, you know, a question
getting
about
crazy
how these
tired.
people are going to vote, but at the end of the day, it's
Why
it's
can't you
not
just either just
about
get the
the border, it's
75,000
about
or
all
just get
national
the 12
security
cents?
now.
Come
When
on,
you see
man,
what's
just do it
happening
for
and
me.
there's people from all around the world coming in.
Jesus.
These aren't people who are even being vetted.
Yeah, they're not. And it's just simply because you cannot vet thousands upon thousands of people that cross the border illegally every single day. It's just impossible to do. And then when you put on top of the time constraints that Secretary Mayorkas has given Border Patrol agents, you know, the amount of time that goes through, and then of course when you transfer them over to other organizations like Health and Human Services, this is a bureaucracy that doesn't need to be there. We can get this under control with proper policy, but this administration has completely and totally rejected everything like that. No, I was there. It was my job to try. It was an impossible job, but to try to convince this administration to put in proper policies that would allow us to secure the border. And for over 3 years, I beat my head against the wall, knowing that they just weren't going to do it. I couldn't give up. I had to continue to try, but I knew that they weren't going to do it. And sure enough, they didn't. And that's why we see all of the chaos that exists today. And what's really frustrating to every single Border Patrol agent is when we go to them and we stay within their own parameters. You know, these were what they said that they were willing to do, and then of course they rejected it out of hand because they thought that their base would reject them. This is an administration that just didn't care about the citizens of this country. They only cared about their base, and now we're seeing that
Bro,
you know,
stringing me along, bro.
the
Come
states
on,
are
man.
rejecting
I'm
everything
crazy
that
tired. I
this
just want to see
administration put in as far as it
these
pertains to border security.
Well, we appreciate all the
Or
efforts,
Doug MAGA.
Brandon,
Doug
and you
MAGA
still are
can just start
making great
pumping.
efforts. We know you're in touch
MAGA
with
Trump
the folks
plan.
on the front line there, so keep up the
Yeah,
great
it's
work,
Doug
Brandon
MAGA.
Judd.
Doug MAGA is dumping.
looking,
Look at that.
Could be some good news
Doug
later
MAGA is
this evening.
dumping.
Thank you so much for being with us,
Yes.
sir. We're going to take a quick break, and we're back with much
The
more.
MAGA Trump plan isn't doing too much.
Why not? Let's do it.
We'll be back caffeinated right after the short commercial break.
Oh, bro. All right, let's pause this and go someplace else. I don't know.
The Senate race.
Their state. So again, on social media, we've been seeing reactions to this storyline as folks are finding out if their state will enshrine abortion protection in the Constitution. Happening now.
I don't know. Let's try CBS.
On that note, let's.
It's only 70%
7 are in purple. In
Battlegrounds.
Georgia, CBS News now rates the presidential race there as lean Republican. And in North Carolina, CBS News now rates the race as lean Republican. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania, part of that blue wall the Democrats say a must-win for the vice president. CBS News rates this race as toss-up. In Michigan, CBS News rates this race as a toss-up. The Secretary of State there telling us they could have the vote counted by midnight. That doesn't mean we'll understand or know what that full vote is, but that could come quickly. And Wisconsin, CBS News rates this race as a toss-up at this hour. Let's check in on more of the Sun Belt states, including Arizona. Just about half the vote there in Arizona. Look how close it is, those prized 11 electoral votes. It is a toss-up at this hour. And then Nevada. Again, the vote, not enough of the vote yet in, but we rate that as a toss-up at this hour. As I mentioned just a short time ago, there's important news on the United States Senate. Let's go now to Scott McFarland, who covers Congress for us. Good evening, Scott.
Nora, this has such outsized impact on the next president. Which party controls the U.S. Senate? The evening began with Democrats and their feet in quicksand, immediately almost losing that West Virginia seat they've held for so many years. And now they are fighting an uphill battle and losing so many of them. Let's go to Ohio first. CBS News projects at this point it leans Republican. Bernie Moreno, the Trump-endorsed businessman from Ohio, leading Sherrod Brown, the three-term Democratic incumbent from Northeast Ohio. He served in the U.S. House before his 18 years in the U.S. Senate. He literally wrote the book on Congress. Sherrod Brown is in trouble.
Let's go ahead, if we can, guys, take a look at my computer screen here and want to talk about Pennsylvania and Wisconsin as well. We take a look at Pennsylvania. We've been talking about Donald Trump's lead in the state. It has been slowly growing, not very much, but he has built a little bit of a lead, as you can see, almost 3 points in Pennsylvania right now. Similar situation in Wisconsin, almost has a 3-point lead there. And it has been razor thin all night, but it has been consistently, both of these states, consistently showing Donald Trump in the lead for about the last hour and a half. Also wanted to note, Michigan, just a moment ago, Donald Trump took the lead in Michigan. He's now up 49% to 48%. Again, less than a percentage point separates the two candidates.
Look at this.
These things are so tight.
Look at
also,
this.
if we look at Arizona here, Donald Trump is out to the tiniest of lead with 55% of the vote in, 49.7% to 49.5%.
Trump is going to get in, and we're going to make billions and billions.
55% of the vote counted so far. But remember, Maricopa County, the most populous county in Arizona, we were told it's going to take a little while for them to finally count all the votes. So when we see Donald Trump winning Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona,
come on, 75, man. Come on, 75.
A long time before the final results are in. But right now,
75. I want to see 75.
Especially that blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan. Let's bring in our panel now. We have the editor-in-chief at the Post Millennial, Libby Emmons, and also former Trump campaign aide and author of.
All right, we'll go back up to the 900, 74.9. Come on, let's go up.
Soon it's going to be election morning, and we are watching. Get into the head of Kamala Harris right now in the campaign, because all they can do is do what we're doing, is watch it.
All right, let's check Kaspa. What's Kaspa doing?
Well, I think right now
11.94. Almost there.
Watching the votes slowly slip away.
I'm going to be really happy if one of these things crosses that line.
The next 24, 48 hours when they start analyzing things, they're going to
We're
realize
going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars.
What's going to happen with independents? Where
And billions and billions of dollars.
All of those now seem to be, trending true. Not just across one state, so they're not one-offs, but they are, across multiple states. And so when you look at Georgia and North Carolina, I mean, we're going to be able to analyze this over the next couple of days. This is all great news for Donald Trump. It means that his vision, his idea for where he wanted to take America resonated much more soundly than Kamala Harris is. So she's obviously not having a good night. It's going to be hard to explain a lot of of the rationale for why Donald Trump was able to pull off what he did, given the
9-5.
adversity that he's been up against.
Let's go.
So it's going to be
That's
fun
MAGA
watching the
coin.
Harris team, and more importantly,
MAGA
let's
coin
see
still
what
going
Joe
back
Biden can do.
down.
It
Jesus
looked like he was,
Christ, man.
binging on Netflix tonight, among other things. So
talking
you know,
MAGA's doing
we'll
the
see
same
what he
thing.
has to say tomorrow as well.
There was a picture on X showing Joe
on.
Biden in a red suit going
9-6,
You know, it's
9-6.
just interesting kind of fodder.
Oh
but
my God.
Yeah, there you have it. Libby, I mean, women, female voters, Kamala Harris probably thought with this abortion issue she could get maybe the younger, the white, rich, liberal women in the suburbs. But I guess economy, safety of their kids, those are kind of things women care about as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more things that women care about other than the right to kill their babies before they're even born. So I think that backfires spectacularly. It's also a hard sell for a lot of men who have daughters, who have wives, who have sisters, all of whom have mothers, who look at that and say, you know, that's not the most important thing to the women in my life. The most important thing is the grocery bill, is making sure that they can get their kids to school, you know, without breaking the bank on a tank of gas, and making sure that our crime is down in our communities and that our border is secure.
Come on,
There's a
man.
lot more that women care about other than this
75K,
one
let's
issue
go.
that Kamala Harris has staked her entire campaign on.
You guys know if Trump wins tonight, this shit is going to be pumping. It's going to go far beyond
Because you're part of
75.
some identity
I'll
group
tell you
and
that.
you check a specific box, that doesn't mean you vote as a monolith, or that your interests are all, you know, what they're prescribed to be by the powers that be and want them to be that way. So I think that that's really great. And I'm glad to see that so many women did come out for Trump.
Yeah, and you know, you got to wonder, Rick, where the soul searching begins for the Democratic Party. Obviously, they have made the entire thing about gender and identity politics. They pursued these woke ideas. You could talk about the border policy and how at the last minute, Joe Biden signed these executive orders that actually did do a little bit to stem the flow of immigration after telling us for years that he needed Congress to act. And again, we caution that these numbers might not hold up, but things are trending very positively for Donald Trump. If he does win, do you think Democrats are willing to be, you know, show a
this
little
is
contrition
crazy.
on some of these policies, or do they just double down on everything?
It's
that they've stood for?
11:38.
Oh no,
My
I think
time.
this is Judgment Day for the Democrats, and you know, if I were a Republican,
I mean, this killer
I would
just
just sit
is
back
gonna-
for the next 48 hours and just let the Dems go at each other,
Hey,
point
come on.
fingers, lay the blame. You know, we
Next
don't
thing,
even
this
need to,
time,
really come out and
the
analyze anything. And I think
95
that when
this
you
moves
listen to
soon.
what the Democrats
All right, so
are
it's
saying,
11:95.
there will be a lot of blame game.
If this
But
moves up or
there's gonna be
down,
a
whatever it
lot
does,
of, I think,
all right, it's going down.
conversation
That's it, I'm
over
done.
The agenda,
I was going to
the
say I want to
policy
step away
issues,
because this is
the
going down back.
inability
It's
of
not going to
Kamala Harris
75.
communicate those policies.
It was
I think
749
obviously there
before,
will be a
now
lot
it's
of second-guessing
747.
on should she have been our nominee?
It's going to
Should we
748.
have
I don't
done
know,
a
bro.
primary, or a convention at least to select somebody?
I'm
There's gonna be
tired.
a lot of issues.
Trump is going to
by
win.
the Democratic Party.
I mean, I
think that they'll
doubt that
try to
I'm going to
quickly,
wake up and Kamala's going
find
to be
a
the
couple
winner.
of people that
I
can
totally
fill the
doubt
gap.
it.
Obviously, I think Kamala, you know, kind of.
Anyways, guys.
Obviously, she'll serve out as vice president,
So,
but you know, will kind of disappear from the national stage.
Pump it up.
After that, and you'll see a new crop of
We'll give it
Democrats,
one
maybe
last
Josh
song.
Shapiro, Pritzker, you know, Murphy, others.
Right.
That will try
Before I step away, let's just pump it up with Kaspa.
A difficult time for Democrats to kind of explain among each other, you know, what
Right.
happened in all this, because you know we still got the Senate and the House to watch too. You know, we have
Anybody who has Kaspa,
so those will
it's going to be absolutely rich. If you don't have Kaspa and you're watching this, I would advise you to get some Kaspa now because
focusing on the right issues.
it's at a price where it's low and it's going to go higher, much higher. Kaspa is the shit. It is the absolute replacement of Bitcoin. It is the trilemma solver.
In Pennsylvania, he's
It is the
above
best
51%
crypto out there.
now, with
So
78%
get
of the
at
votes being in.
least something in
Also
Kaspa.
showing a lead in Michigan now, a tiny little lead in Michigan.
I was just
with 40%
complaining before that Uphold is blocking me because they said I need to cool down. I can't withdraw any USDT for the next 60 hours, it said. Because I've just been buying $1,000 a pop, sending $1,000 USDT to L banks and $1,000 to XT. I'm buying Kaspa at a cheap price. So I'm left at... Now I can't do that for 60 hours, so I can buy Kaspa directly on Uphold, but I have to pay those high fees.
Once he gets to the Senate,
So,
I don't know.
oh well.
We'll see.
That's
maybe
it.
they
That
should,
sucks.
Maybe they should get on that. I think it's
But
a shame. You know, we're gonna have to deal with Adam Schiff
If
ever
you
again.
are watching this and you don't know about how or where to buy this stuff and things like that, then join my Discord.
Evans, Rick Gates, really
Link in
appreciate your
description
comments
below.
tonight. Thanks so much for being with
Yeah,
us
go
for our
directly
extended
there, right?
coverage. Still nighttime here,
Crypto
not 12
Rich.
a.m. yet. State of the race.
My
stay
Discord
tuned.
community, they got
Yeah,
tons
we
of
will.
tools. You get
And we
access to
are.
me. You
They're
can
having
ask me
fun at the watch
questions.
party right there.
And
That is
we will
West Palm
be
Beach. Right
rocking
now, we're
together.
Still a
and
lot
we'll
of pensive
become
faces out there.
Kabillionaires
For
together.
these final results. We're kind of in this holding pattern right now because we know Pennsylvania and
Right? This is
Arizona,
another
some of these
coin.
states
This is one of my
take a very long
picks.
time
It's
to count
constantly
these
going up
votes.
to
So
all-time highs.
This is the hard part.
And yeah, man.
It's fun, yeah, but hard.
These last few days, all-time high every
Someone
single
said
day,
that a
right?
lot on the
It's just pumping and pumping and pumping.
All right, so let's take you out to the West Coast, where
This
it's a little bit
Saturday,
earlier there.
Cool.
We have
75,
Emmy-nominated journalist,
bro.
author Jason Matera. He is live
Alright,
for
it's
us.
going back down. Actually, I do want this to go back down because I have many thousands more to spend on Kaspa, and I want it at a cheap price. So I want to wake it up. I want to wake up and I want to see it back down at 10 cents. I don't want to see it at 12 or 13 cents when I wake up. So hopefully, fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, great to see you, Bianca and
So,
John. We're at Sam Brown's watch party. He's trying to
I'm done.
overtake the incumbent Senator Jackie
Take
Rosen
care, guys.
and the
I
RNC
am
officials that we
totally
spoke